was like, man, I can't keep listening to Jimmy G over and over again, man.
Well, what's crazy about that is, so he comes over, and I'm like, okay, I'm excited to see Garoppolo in there, but the problem is he's got no one around him. So, like, they might be still really bad. We won't really know what Jimmy G's all about because I couldn't even name the receivers. I think Carlos Hyde's still the running back. I could be wrong, but I think Hyde's still the running back. But he's got no one else around him. I'm like, even if he's bad, I'm not going to write him off because I just don't know. And then he's making all these guys, like Tom Brady, a bunch of no-names into, looks like a Pro Bowl team.
The other incredible thing about that is, when did he get there? I mean, what did he learn the offense in 2 weeks? I mean, literally, he was there for like 2 weeks, and then he was thrown into starting. These NFL playbooks are hundreds of pages of checks and protection checks. They all have 14 different protections that you have to check to all the time and route changes and all this stuff. He must have learned that in like 2 weeks. And what is he, 4-0 or 5-0 as a starter?
As a starter, yeah. And going back, he had 2 wins as well when he was a starter with New England. So he's undefeated in the NFL. And if I remember right, he went to the 49ers, he got traded, and then he had a couple weeks with them where he didn't play, obviously. And then they had the bye week. And they said, well, okay, coming out of the bye week, I think they had the Giants coming out of the bye week. That will be his game. And the other guy, C.J. Beathard, got the start, got injured in that game, and then they were like, okay, well, I guess it's Jimmy G time. This wasn't part of the plan. Now you can't turn around now. I mean, look at what he's doing now. You can't turn around.
He's the quarterback in San Francisco for years, short of getting hurt or short of, I think he's shown what he can do, and if you can find a starting quarterback in the NFL, I mean, if you can find a guy that can pull the trigger and be that guy, then you're relevant. I mean, their 49ers have instantly gone from totally irrelevant to potentially relevant next year.
Now, if you look at the Seattle Seahawks, and I would say they're trending down. They're getting a little long in the tooth, not as good as what they once were. The Rams are on the rise. Maybe this is a 49ers team that if you look way on the horizon, they're going to be something good. We could have a Rams-49ers rivalry for years to come with these two young quarterbacks.
The deal with Seattle was they were in that Goldilocks zone, right, where they weren't paying Russell Wilson any money. I mean, that's the place you want to be, where if you can get those quarterbacks and they can get good their first or second year because they're still in those rookie contracts, so you're not paying them, and all of a sudden you can spend that money on the defense and on the receivers and on the offensive line. And
that's exactly what they did, right?
Once Seattle got out of that, once they got out of that and had to pay Russell Wilson the money, now all of a sudden they're a little thinner in the secondary. They're a little thinner on the defensive line, the offensive line. So, of course, we say all this, there's a chance they're going to be 10-6 in Seattle. So it isn't like the wheels have totally fallen off. No. But I think the Eagles are kind of in that zone too, right? With Carson Wentz, they're not paying him much. So, they, I think, still got another year or so of that Goldilocks zone. Then all of a sudden, Carson Wentz is going to start making $25-30 million, and now that changes what you can do with the rest of the team around him.
And I know it's only a small sample size, but we saw what the Eagles look like without Carson Wentz at quarterback, with Nick Foles in there against a Raiders team that's not good but not bad, I guess, middle of the road, and they barely got past the Raiders.
Carson Wentz is phenomenal, by the way. You watch what that guy can do. He reminds you of kind of the Aaron Rodgers, kind of, Ben Roethlisberger, can step out of pressure, can make a big play out of a bad play. Kind of a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit later about Sam Darnold. Kind of what I think they think Sam Darnold could potentially be is that kind of guy. He's kind of that guy at USC. Now, being that guy at USC is different from being that guy for the Philadelphia Eagles or the Cleveland Browns. So, be interesting to see how that translates. But I think that's what they see in Darnold, too.
I like USC. I've liked their quarterbacks. My favorite of all time was Cody Kessler. But they just don't translate well to the NFL game for whatever reason. I'm John David Booty. I mean, you know what I mean?
Sure is strange, man. You know Isn't that strange?
Leinart, Carson Palmer might be the one exception to that rule, and it's not like he was a Hall of Famer or anything, but he was a very good NFL quarterback for a long time.
And he got better. I think Carson Palmer got better as his career went on, and I think that's the thing you don't know about these quarterbacks is you don't know what their work level is. You don't know how much they love football. You can see them throw the out. You can see them scramble away from pressure. You can watch that on film. But until you get them in the room, in the film room, until you see, are they the first guy in every day? Are they in at 6 a.m? Are they the last guy out? Are they sleeping on their, sleeping on the couch in the facility? Once you can't tell that really until you get them into your facility. And I think that's that was always the deal about Leinart. Was he the hardest worker on his team, there was always questions about whether he was always totally focused on football. And I don't know that he wasn't. That was always the question about Leinart. And so that's, I think, the question about these quarterbacks, too.
Matt Barkley, I think he's floating around the NFL somewhere. I don't know if he Chicago or Arizona. He was somewhere, but
I think the Barkley deal was an arm strength deal. I just don't know that he was ever a guy that could make all the throws. You know, they talk about, can you make all the throws? I don't know that Barkley was ever that guy. I think there was always the question about, was he a system guy? Was he taking advantage of SC's talent? You know, and again, very good quarterback. We're talking about all of the guys we're talking about are very good quarterbacks. Matt Leinart's a very good quarterback. We're not talking about, oh, he's a bum. These guys are all really good. Yeah. Now, the difference is, are you really good or are you one of the best that's ever played? You know, the best of the best of the best, and that's what they're trying to find when they try to find these quarterbacks.
Exactly. Is there a home in the NFL for these guys? Yeah, probably. They're going to have a nice little career and make some money. But are they going to be like a number one pick? That's something you're going to hang the franchise on, like a Carson Wentz that we're talking about right now?
Right. Are you Carson Wentz? Are you Cam Newton? I mean, there's not that many of those guys. There hasn't been that many of those guys ever. In the history of the world, there hasn't been that many franchise, day in, day out NFL quarterbacks. There's only been a few. Are you one of those guys, or are you just a really, really good quarterback?
Well, we're going to talk more about Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, these UCLA and USC quarterbacks, also more about these college football bowl games. And, Vinny, we were talking off the air. It's been rough for the Pac-12 schools going back to the previous night, the Holiday Bowl down in San Diego, Washington State getting beat up by Michigan State 42-17. Of course, we got USC and the Ohio State tonight in the Cotton Bowl, although it sounds like a Rose Bowl matchup, but it's the Cotton Bowl. How do you like this matchup? Do you think USC's got a shot against the Buckeyes?
Short of an SC win tonight and a Washington win tomorrow over Penn State, it's a disaster. I mean, it's an unmitigated disaster for the Pac-12. It's as bad as it can be. The only win, and I don't have an Arizona State score in front of me, they were down 2 scores when I got in the studio.
Yeah, it was like 28-10 or something.
The only win that the Pac-12 has right now is Utah beating a very depleted West Virginia team without their starting quarterback, without their starting running back, down to kind of a backup JV kind of quarterback, and that's the Pac-12's only win right now. So just a disaster so far for the Pac-12, and we'll see. You know, SC has got their hands full. Ohio State is so athletic in the defensive front, so good. You know, SC's going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to get some stops. And, of course, Arizona State, I'm just getting their doors blown off right now.
Yeah, they just started the fourth quarter, the Sun Bowl, North Carolina State and Arizona State. NC State up 38-10 to start the fourth quarter.
And these aren't great teams that the Pac-12 are losing to either. I mean, Kansas State is just a regular team, blew UCLA's doors off. You know, these are just regular. You know, Boise State is probably not one of the better Boise State teams, and they embarrassed Oregon. I mean, so you've got, and don't tell Alexander Mattison I said that when he calls either. He is a really good Boise player, by the way. But certainly, I don't think anybody would say this is the best Boise State team they've ever had. And they hammered Oregon, absolutely gave it to Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Arizona State's getting hammered tonight. Washington State got embarrassed last night. So it's been a slog for the Pac-12 so far.
We'll keep you up to date on these college football bowl games, as Vinny alluded to, that Alexander Mattison, the pride of Cardinal City, USA, San Bernardino High School, and 1,000-yard back for Boise State. He will be joining us live on the show at 3:30, so we'll ask him about. He didn't play a whole lot in that Las Vegas Bowl game, but he had an injury, but he got a couple touches.
You know, and he did enough to be a distraction. He was in a lot, and I think took the focus of the Oregon defense on a lot of those plays to throw play action or to get the ball down the field or to do some other things that they were able to do. So the truth was they didn't need him. I mean, they were really in control of that game the whole time. They gave away those 2 silly defensive touchdowns at the end of the half to make it
look a little
kind of look like it was close, but they blew Oregon's doors off. Make no mistake. I mean, they absolutely. I was sitting there in the front row. I watched it happen.
I'm going to ask Alex if he saw you. Did you see those guys wearing those funky Christmas suits?
I bet I'm sure he had better things to worry about.
Side, though,
we were right behind the Oregon bench. Yeah, we were first row, right behind the Oregon bench, and we heard a lot of the discussions going on the sideline. They weren't good. But we did have a good angle on Molly McGrath. I got to see her notes, and so we had a good angle
notes on it, right?
To check out what Molly McGrath was doing. She was grinding down
Now
there.
that you're in the broadcasting world, right? I mean,
yeah.
You got from X's and O's to notepads, right?
Absolutely. Making some notes, figuring out what's going on.
We got a big show. Alexander Mattison coming up in about 15 minutes. All brought to you by our good friends at Spoiled Quick Quality Oil Change. You'll be spoiled by their great customer service and low prices. Ken's Sporting Goods in Norco, 40 years and still dominating with all your sporting gear needs and Letterman's jackets and embroidery. They do it all. Boost performance training in Corona with Coach Ray Bass. Check out the new overtime program for kids going into the high school sports. Maybe it's that varsity starting job you want. Ray Bass can help you get that. And Catalano Motors in Corona off Temescal Canyon Road. You can buy, trade, finance a new-to-you car or SUV. Go check out Derek Catalano and Catalano Motors off Temescal Canyon Road in Corona. When we come back, we'll talk more about these college football bowl games, more on Josh Rosen at UCLA, Sam Darnold at USC, and then Alexander Mattison, Boise State running back, right around the corner. You're listening to the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports, 1350 AM.
You fellas been doing a bit of boozing, have you? Sucking back on Grandpa's old cup?
We're small, family-owned, strive for quality pre-owned vehicles. We're not a volume dealer, and we take every deal as personal to us. We're a low-stress environment. We're not a pressure sales house. If you want to shop us, you're more than welcome to shop us. We have, like I said, great rates, competitive financing, a lot of one-owner, clean Carfax, clean title vehicles. As you see, we have Carfax everywhere. That's most important to us, to educate our customers before they make a purchase. We're right off of Ontario, right off a couple exits off the 15 freeway, off Cajalco, off El Cerrito, and we're right on the main drag going into Dos Logos and the Crossings. We have great financing, we have great lenders that we're using. We do buy, sell, trade, cash for your car. Whatever we need to do to help accommodate the customer, that's what we're here for. We have a little bit of everything. We start at about $69.95 and go all the way up to $100,000. We have Escalades, we have commuters, we have pickup trucks, we have Jeeps, sport utilities, and if we don't have it, our specialty is finding you exactly what you're looking for.
Focus on the customer here. That thing for customers on an oil change, they just want the convenience of coming in, driving in, getting it done, and driving out. Just greet them, get them going, and they're done in about 10 minutes or so. We don't push any sales on them. We do the oil change, and I think that's what sets us apart is our customer service. Vacuumed and cleaned your windshield for you as well. Everything's looking pretty good. Come into us one time, believe me, we'll spoil you and you'll be ready to come back the next time.
Thank God, first of all. I thank the great people that I've got around me that help support me, the people that work for me. As I started, if it wasn't for the people around me, we probably wouldn't be here right now, but I've got a great staff. I've got great people that do stuff for us outside the store, and we've been very, very fortunate. Our service is impeccable, and we just keep trying to get better every year. We can do online stuff for your teams, as well as, like I said, the screen printing, the embroidery. We also have 3 women that do extra sewing for us, like tackle tool on uniforms, or the bling or rhinestones for different shirts for the ladies. That's why we have certain racks just for certain schools, and the fun about that is that it turns into other schools that may come in here that aren't as close, that we can do stuff for them as well. We've had very, very good customers throughout the years, and it's just been a blast.
And you all know is Joe the Policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama. I want you to put your hands together and welcome him to the stage. Big round of applause for Jackson Heights' own Mr. Randy Watson. Yes, Randy Watson. Very good.
Now back to the Inland Sports Show. Here's Pep and Jeff.
And welcome back to the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. Jeff's on the road with the UC Riverside men's basketball team. My co-host today, the great Vinny Fazio. He traveled in the local football circles. Everyone knows the last name Fazio. For Skip, but also for the great Vinny Fazio over here as well. And Vinny, we were talking about these college football bowl games. And there's some going down right now. Of course, North Carolina State beating up Arizona State in the Sun Bowl. We got USC and the Ohio State tonight. We were talking about the Trojans and their history of quarterbacks. If you're let's say the Cleveland Browns, and you've got the #1 pick in the NFL draft, and you've got a decision between Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold, which way do you lean?
Boy, I think there's a bunch of guys that are going to be in that mix. I don't think it's going to be Rosen or Darnold necessarily. I think you got Josh Allen in the mix from Wyoming. Right? Yeah. I think I think down the road in the first round, Baker Mayfield's going to be a factor. I like Lamar Jackson. I really like Lamar Jackson out of Louisville. I think he's phenomenal. And if you look at his pass stats, they're comparable to Rosen and Darnold, except he runs for 1,500 yards a year. So I like him too. But I if I'm Cleveland, I'm taking Sam Darnold, and here's why. I think he wants to be in Cleveland. I think Rosen has kind of made it clear that he doesn't want to be there.
That,
and so I don't know that Rosen's that guy. I know when Elway came out, he was that guy, so he could kind of say, here's where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I don't know that Rosen's that guy. Rosen's 17-13 at UCLA, which is fine.
It's not bad.
He's been good, but I don't know that he's the guy that can start dictating where he's going to go, and I don't know that he's been that guy. So I think Darnold is a guy that you can build your thing around. I think he's got a lot of upside. I don't think he's a finished product. I think Rosen's much more of a finished product than Darnold is. I think Darnold's got a lot of growth potential, and
which could be a good thing when
I think is a good thing.
He's already good. How much better can he still get?
I think that's a good thing. I think Josh Rosen is much closer to as good as he'll ever be than Darnold is. Now, the thing with that is if you bring him right in and you expect him to be the starter and you throw him into an 0-16 Cleveland team, that's ruined a lot of quarterbacks.
Messy, yeah.
You know, that's ruined a lot of guys that had potential in the past. So I drafting quarterbacks is always an inexact science, right? I mean, last year at this time, Jared Goff was the biggest bum anyone ever drafted.
They had already dug his grave and
he was already
him
dead.
alive. Yeah.
Start Sean Mannion, draft a new quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, Jared Goff's a bum. Now all of a sudden, Jared Goff's maybe going to be in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, Pro Bowl MVP talk.
So, you know, he went from a bum to maybe a Pro Bowler in a year. So it's such an inexact science. You don't really know what you're getting. So many of those guys don't succeed. It's almost like making a pilot to go on the, you know, network sitcom.
Yeah.
So many of those guys fail. It's such a high failure rate.
Some never even see the light of day. And so let's say Sam Darnold has a huge game tonight against the Ohio State, because it's one of those things, well, who's the hot name, right? I mean, people are going to be thinking, what's the most recent thing in their head? It might be Sam Darnold. Wow, did you see him shred up that Ohio State secondary? I mean, he could be the hot name. And going against this Ohio State defense is as close of a simulation as you can get. It's NFL. Like playing Alabama or playing Clemson. Those are as close to playing an NFL group as you can play. Most of those front seven guys are going to get a shot in the NFL. You know, and some of them are going to get a lot of money to play for a long time for Ohio State. So this will be a real good indication of, does that shtick play? Does his step around pressure? I mean, it's one thing to do that against Washington State. It's another thing to do that against Ohio State. You know, so does that play? I think you'll get a little bit of a feel for that tonight, how he does against Ohio State. All right, in one more minute, so Sam Darnold, who would you compare him to in the NFL right now? I mean, body-wise, maybe like a Ben Roethlisberger, because he's a big dude. It's so hard. He looks like Scott Farkas from remember Christmas Story? Yeah, you know what? He follows me on Twitter. Just like Scott Farkas. But anyway, you know, it's so hard to compare guys to established guys. I think if you're looking at upside for Darnold, I think you're hoping he's a Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers guy, kind of improv guy that can step around pressure. You know, maybe not the most polished. He's not the Peyton Manning. That's what you're hoping Rosen is, right? Yeah. The pocket guy, the one read and throw. You're hoping that's Rosen. Darnold, I think you're hoping for more of the improvisation, you know, Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Wentz kind of guy. All right, well, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, who will go #1 in the NFL draft? If we have time, we'll revisit that a little bit later in the show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it's the 1,000-yard rusher for the Boise State Broncos and the pride of Cardinal City, the great Alexander Mattison. We'll talk to him live on the show when we come back. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE, 1350 AM.
He doesn't have a fever, but he says his stomach hurts and he's...
I played once upon a time at Centennial High School. I was actually on the first ever CIF championship team back in 2000, and then my senior year we won it again. I think that's my passion because I've done it. You know, I know exactly where these athletes are at. I know what their mindset is right now. I know how hard it is to, #1, find a performance coach who can take you to the next level. What sets us apart has to be, you know, how we work with our athletes and what we know. We can take an athlete and you know, help them reach their athletic potential, you know, help them, you know, prevent injuries, help get them stronger. I know every single athlete who steps into this gym. I know exactly where they're at, and I'm going to progress them every week. If you're not getting results, then, you know, really what's it about? We're going to deliver something that's measurable, you know, in terms of speed, power, you know, strength, agility.
We're small, family-owned, strive for quality pre-owned vehicles. We're not a volume dealer, and we take every deal as personal to us. We're a low-stress environment. We're not a pressure sales house. If you want to shop us, you're more than welcome to shop us. We have, like I said, great rates, competitive financing, a lot of one-owner, clean Carfax, clean title vehicles. As you see, we have Carfax everywhere. That's most important to us, to educate our customers before they make a purchase. We're right off of Ontario, right off a couple exits off the 15 freeway, off Cajelco, off El Cerrito, and we're right on the main drag going into Dos Logos and the crossings. We have great financing, we have great lenders that we're using. We do buy, sell, trade, cash for your car. Whatever we need to do to help accommodate the customer, that's what we're here for. We have a little bit of everything. We start at about $69.95 and go all the way up to $100,000. We have Escalades, we have commuters, we have pickup trucks, we have Jeeps, sport utilities, and if we don't have it, our specialty is finding you exactly what you're looking for.
Focus on the customer here. Believe it or not, that is the biggest thing for customers on an oil change. They just want the convenience of coming in, driving in, getting it done, and driving out. Just greet them, get them going, and they're done in about 10 minutes or so. We don't push any sales on them. We do the oil change, and I think that's what sets us apart is our customer service. Vacuumed and cleaned your windshield for you as well. Everything's looking pretty good. Come into us one time, believe me, we'll spoil you and you'll be ready to come back the next time.
and the Ad Council.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Be a reader, tutor or mentor, give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge now at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
We're back to the Inland Sports Show. Here are your hosts, Pep Fernandez and Jeff Gorham.
Welcome back to the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports 1350 AM on a Friday. We're going to finish up the week strong. We're deep into the college football bowl season. Big one tonight, USC and the Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. We've also got the Inland Empire All-Star Classic, the 33rd annual, coming up on January 13th at Centennial High School. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the show. It's Matt Logan from Centennial coaching up the Riverside County All-Stars against Nick Matheny out of Summit High School and the San Bernardino County All-Stars. And Vinny, I got my Summit Skyhawk shirt on today. By chance, I got to think about what I wear each day because most of my clothes I've gotten free from schools. So I'm thinking, where am I going today? Who am I going to see? Because I got to be very specific on what I wear. But right now, let's go to the Spoiled Quick Quality Oil Change Celebrity Hotline. He is a dear friend of the show. We appreciate him taking a couple minutes to talk to us here on the Inland Sports Show. It's Boise State 1,000-yard running back Alexander Mattison, the pride of Cardinal City. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, we are doing a lot better now that you're joining us here on the show. I know a lot of people, man, they're big fans across the Inland Empire of Boise State football and what you were able to add to the Broncos and of certainly the ground game this season. Man, 1,000 yards. I mean, even for you, were you kind of surprised, or were you expecting to have this huge breakout season like this for the Boise State ground game?
Well, I didn't really think too much about it. I just, kind of went out there and put my all into it. And, with God's blessings, I was able to come out with, a great season. And, I'm still not done yet, still reaching for more. I know I got more in me. I know I got more that I can prove. And so, it's just a blessing to be able to do that, especially in a program such as Boise State.
And they were getting you involved in the passing game as well. You're catching that football from out of the backfield. Do you like being a threat in the passing game as well?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Just being able to get out the backfield and no one really noticing and get the ball to me and see what I can do after that. But yeah, I know that to get to the next level, they look for guys that can catch out of the backfield and I can do something with the ball, not just from getting a handoff, but from receiving the ball as well. So that's also a blessing to be able to showcase that as well.
We're talking with Alexander Mattison, Boise State running back out of San Bernardino High School here on the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. Alex, I know you were a little banged up going into the Las Vegas Bowl, but you did get a couple carries there. So how are you feeling today? And I assume you'll be 100% when spring ball rolls around, right?
Yeah, I feel a lot better. Took a pretty nasty ankle injury in championship game, so try to get back as much as, get to whatever percentage of healthy I could get to in order to try and get in there and play a little bit in the bowl game. But hopefully I won't be needing surgery, and I'll be good when spring rolls around.
Now, my co-host today, Vinny Fazio, was at the Las Vegas Bowl. And, Alex, I'm curious, did you see a couple wacky guys wearing Christmas-themed full-on suits, like a suit you'd wear to like a wedding or a prom? But they had suits on that had, what was it, Vinny, like Santa Claus and Christmas trees, and what was it?
Yeah, very Christmas-themed. Snowmen and very Christmas-themed, Alex.
Oh, really? I see a lot of different things. We got some Darth Vader costume people, the Flintstones, a lot of different guys out there with different stuff on.
Yeah, there's some pretty wacky college football fans out there. Vinny's one of them, as he made the trip to the Las Vegas Bowl to check you out against the Oregon Ducks, and that was a big win for Boise State. And Vinny, you brought up a good point that even if Alexander Mattison's not getting the carry, but when he's on the field, the other defense has to pay attention, right? I mean, because he's a threat. So
yeah, I thought you really had an impact on the game. Did you feel like, was that kind of the idea that you were going to be a little bit of a decoy, even though you knew maybe you weren't at full speed, make them look at you and maybe open up some things for your teammates?
Yeah, we knew coming into this game it was going to be, get in there and give us as many plays as you can give us. They knew I was going to be 100% healthy in order to try and really take the load, but they knew that the impact I would have just on the defense would help out a lot, and I knew that, I had to do it just for my teammates, just try and get back healthy, just enough to get out there and give them at least, 15 plays, 20 plays, just to try and impact and make a little impact I can.
Well, Alex, how does a big-time Boise State running back spend his downtime? I know you probably have a couple of days to come back home and chill out and see some family and friends. What do you do to kind of unwind?
I like to sit back, relax, spend time with family, go work out on my own, go work out with some of my old teammates and friends from high school, just get a couple different type of workouts in. They're more laid back and we can crack some jokes and have some fun while we're doing it too. So, just absorbing it all while I'm here and just knowing that, I won't be able to experience this for another couple months. So I just take it all in and try and just, stay relaxed, stay calm, and heal up, especially since now I'm not in there getting banged up week in, week out.
Well, you guys did win the Mountain West Conference title, and that was the game that you had got injured your ankle in. Was it a high ankle sprain? Exactly what was that?
We treated it as a high ankle sprain, maybe some ligament damage, but we won't know until I get back to Boise. We can kind of take things a little further, but it's just a blessing that nothing broken, nothing torn in my knee, anything like that. So it's a blessing that way.
So you guys were able to beat Fresno State in that championship game, and the Bulldogs got you the first time around. How important was it for you guys to bounce back? Really, with the conference championship this time on the line, you guys were able to get the job done inside your home stadium. How special was that moment?
Oh man, words couldn't describe the feeling. Just how upsetting it was for me to know that just hobbling off the field, just know that I wasn't going to be able to go back in and do it for my brothers. The guy to my left, the guy to my right, and just to know that they have my back. They know that that without me, there wasn't no one-man show. It wasn't no Cedric Wilson or Brett Rippon show. It was a team, and so it just felt amazing for everyone to just come together and finish the way we finished that game.
Well, Alex, are you a cold weather guy now? I mean, you've been up in Boise a couple seasons now.
I'm not really a fan of the cold, but I guess I'm less of a fan of the heat now as well, too. So I could say my body's gotten adjusted to a little bit of a colder weather, but I'm still not much of a fan.
Yeah, I was on the phone. I was calling on some like credit card stuff, and the people were from Idaho, and he said, "What's it like down there?" I said, "Oh, it's almost 80 degrees." And I was like, "It doesn't really feel like Christmas because it's almost like 80 degrees." And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's like 20 up here. There's snow everywhere." And it's just a different world, and that's why I wanted to ask you, like, do you get used to it? I mean, do you still like, hey, I want the heat. I want to come back down. I like the triple digits, 100 degrees heat. But it sounds like you're kind of leaning towards maybe the cold weather a little bit.
Just a little bit. We go through practice, and taking hits in the cold weather kind of helps you adjust.
We're talking with Alexander Mattison, Boise State running back out of San Bernardino High School here on the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. So, Alex, now that you have a 1,000-yard season under your belt at Boise State, is it too early to start thinking about the NFL? Are you just focused on getting healthy and your upcoming season at Boise State? Can you look at that big picture now?
Yeah, that's not something I'm worried about yet. Obviously, that's my ultimate goal and plan is to hopefully get there, get to the next level, and have a career at that next level. But for now, Boise State Broncos, focus on getting healthy, getting my degree, and whatever comes at the end of next year, at the end of the year after that, that's something I'll have to think about and deal with down the line.
Are there some current Boise State juniors or seniors that are preparing for the NFL, and do you kind of watch their process in terms of how they're preparing for, combines and, having to work out for teams when they have like the pro day? I mean, do you kind of watch from afar some of your teammates as they begin to have their own process in terms of trying to have an NFL career?
Yeah, there's some guys that are getting ready last year, and guys that were taking off as well, and it's different from my perspective. I wouldn't even know how to deal with the things that they're doing, the different phone calls that they're having, and meetings that they're sitting down in and discussing things. So, from my perspective, it's nothing but just, me wanting to get there and wanting to be in their shoes and doing that. And so it just pushes me to work even harder. I don't prepare any other way. I'm not preparing to leave. I'm not preparing to do anything like that. But I'm just preparing to go out there and have a healthy season and try and get back to the championship and get another win under our belt again and play out there with my field.
Hey, Alex, how were the classes this year? What was your toughest final this past semester?
Well, I had a handful of group projects, so they were all pretty similar. Didn't really have anyone that stuck out that was too difficult, but gladly I did manage to come out with all A's this semester. So I know it was rough to do that, but it felt good in the end.
See, when you're Alexander Mattison, everything comes easy to you. He's like, oh, nothing too big. He's 1,000-yard rusher and a stud in the classroom, Vinny.
He's a stud, man. Straight A student. You've been that way since you were at Cardinal City. Now, let me ask you this. You don't have to give me names, but while you were at San Bernardino High, how many coaches from other schools at some point contacted you to try to get you to transfer out of San Bernardino High?
Oh, there was a couple. There was a handful of them.
Well, he's big time, you know what I mean? Like, when you're big time like that, of course your name's going to be associated with a lot of different places. But, man, he had a great run at Cardinal City. I still one of the coolest things, when you broke the rushing record, Alex, I remember you were, like, holding your hand. It was one of those iconic, like, well, you're too young to know Kurt Gibson of the Dodgers. But, you know, being injured and having, like, this monumental play where you broke the rushing record at San Bernardino High School, you were holding your hand, you were all banged up. But it was a touchdown run too, wasn't it? You scored a touchdown on the record-breaking run.
Yeah.
Well, you scored touchdowns on about 80% of your carries at San Bernardino, I think.
He had a pretty good percentage every time he touched the football. Well, Alex, we appreciate the time, brother. A belated Merry Christmas. I hope you had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you as well. And let's stay in touch because we'd love to talk to you as you get back to spring ball with Boise State.
Of course. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations on those grades, Alex. Great job, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, that's Boise State running back and San Bernardino High School product Alexander Mattison here on the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. What a good dude. Super. I mean, any way you slice it, the poster boy for San Bernardino High School.
He's the guy you want your kid to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if your kid can be like him and maybe not as talented because he's so talented, but to be a kid that was loyal to his program, loyal to his friends, loyal to his community, a kid that was obviously the hardest worker on his team every year, and then a straight A student as well, and so well-spoken and nice and present. I mean, what a nice kid, what a good kid. He's the guy. I mean, he's the guy you want to look up to, right?
Yeah, Alexander Mattison. Listen, look, we knew he was a stud. I was telling you, the first time I saw him with my own eyes was his sophomore year against Hillcrest. I think it was Hillcrest's very first varsity football game at Novi, and Mattison ran wild on them. I'm like, who's this number 22 for San Bernardino? That was just the beginning. And then after his senior year at San Bernardino High School, this guy contacted me looking for video of Alexander Mattison in high school. He'd already finished his high school career. I think he'd already signed with Boise's too, but they were doing this big feature on Alexander Mattison. And I knew he was a stud already and a great kid, but he's like, did you know he was bilingual? Did you know he's involved with this? Did you know? I'm like, no, that's just like icing on the cake. Like, we already knew he was awesome, like a great kid, awesome football player. And then this other guy was telling me all these other things that Alex was involved with, and it was just unbelievable. I
had never met him. This is the first time I ever talked to him, but Alex Pierce, the head coach at Los Osos now, at the time was at Carter, and at the Ken Hubbs Award, he called me after he had gone to the Ken Hubbs Award that year and told me, I met kid Alexander Mattison, and he is as impressive of a high school kid as I've ever met. He's as nice. He's as genuinely well-rounded. He's a multiple sport athlete. He's a wonderful student. He's involved in clubs and community activities. And oh, by the way, he can rush for 1,000 yards as a sophomore at Boise State,
which is crazy.
I mean, he is as good. He's everything you could want to be. I mean, it's kind of unfair that one kid gets to do all this stuff.
I know. I can't even get one of those.
I know.
I'd love to be just one of those things.
Any of those, any one.
So big thanks to Alexander Mattison, 1,000-yard running back for Boise State, joining us here on the Inland Sports Show, Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. And Vinny, I was really hoping he noticed you at the Las Vegas Bowl. If you were behind the Boise State bench, you would have had a chance.
100% chance if we were behind the Boise State bench, you would have noticed us. Definitely the Oregon guys knew who we were, although we were very disappointed with Oregon because they were not doing what we had hoped they were going to do.
Well, they did not show up.
So we were not as vocal as sometimes we are at those games, but good for him. God bless him, and coming back, he's going to be even stronger next year. And boy, what a weapon he's going to be for Boise State.
When you went to the game, I know you and your buddies were all dressed up in the Christmas gear. Was anybody else? Was it mostly just Oregon and Boise State fans, and you just kind of stuck out? Because that's what we were assuming, that you were going to stick out like a sore thumb.
We stuck out very much. We end up, whenever we do this, we end up taking a lot of pictures. A lot of people want to come over and take pictures.
Did they really?
They can't believe two idiots are dressed up in Christmas suits at these football games.
Believe it.
Full, and I'm like, oh yeah, Merry Christmas. So
every single year.
Every single year, man. So nobody really believes it, but we love going to the game. It's one of the fun things you look forward to. I kind of follow the teams every year to see who are we going to get this year and who's the matchup going to be, and thought it was going to be a really good one, but then
is it always Pac-12 Mountain West?
It's the number 6 choice out of the Pac-12 versus the Mountain West champion, which usually is a good matchup for the Pac-12. But this year the Boise guys just got after them real good.
Exactly. Boise State, they played Fresno State back-to-back games. That was kind of wacky. They won the conference championship. That was the game that Alex got injured in. And like you said, wasn't heavily involved in the Las Vegas Bowl, but when he's out on the field, the other team has to take notice of where he's at.
And Fresno State, Micah St. Andrews starting at guard for Fresno State.
Oh, that's right,
guy at
Eisenhower. That's your guy.
So that was a great game for me to watch. I got to watch Micah when they were on offense. I got to watch Alexander Mattison when Boise was on offense. So that was a fun game for me to watch. And Fresno went and won their bowl game too. So Jeff Tedford and the job he did at Fresno this year, from double-digit losses to double-digit wins in 1 year.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Because after Pat Hill, they were toiling for a while. After when Pat Hill left, I mean, he was the Valley's team. Like, he was Fresno State football. When he left, I don't even know where he's at right now, but when he left, there was no identity with that team.
Just an unbelievable job by not just Coach Tedford. Obviously, he's a big reason, but those players to go from, because it's hard to change that culture. Generally it takes you a year or two, unless you have a really special group. So what a special group Fresno had, and really they were a play or two away from beating Boise for the second time in a row.
That was another close game.
A very close game, and it was at Boise. Very close game that Fresno could have easily won, and Boise made the plays, and like I said, we saw Boise in that Vegas Bowl, and they were better than we thought. I mean, when you see them up close, they go and get the ball. They're really good on the line, on the offensive and defensive line, and so Fresno was a really good team to beat them and then be close to beating them a second time in 2 weeks. What a great job by Jeff Tedford and their staff.
Former Cal coach. Was he there when Aaron Rodgers was there?
I believe he was, yeah.
Yeah, and then all the way into Goff?
No, I don't think they were that far into it. No. Goff was Sonny Dykes.
Oh, that's Sonny Dykes. Yeah. That's right. All right, when we come back here on the Inland Sports Show, nobody knows high school football like Vinny Fazio. Much movement.
That's not true.
That's not true.
But I am the secret source.
The secret source telling everyone that he's the secret source, as we're going to talk about some of these high school football hires, what's still open out there, maybe some of the big storylines after this 2017 season. We'll talk more high school football when we come back. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM.
Yeah, thank God it's Friday.
That's the team, gentlemen. Hell yeah. And either we heal now as a team.
How you guys doing today? Coach Ray here from Boost Training. We're here today at the Boost Performance Center with the one and only Pep Fernandez. Today's Boost Training tip is all about strength. And of course, it's very specific to speed. We're talking about the single leg supported low squat. Come check it out. So when it comes to athletic performance, and more specifically speed, it's all about the ability to generate force, all about being nice and strong. Now, running is a single leg motion, so it makes sense that you have to have a great foundation of strength. You gotta have single leg strength. So this exercise really works on that single leg strength here with a deep bend in the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So what Mike is gonna do is gonna have an open hand grip, all right? He's gonna get nice and tight to the rack. He's gonna be doing this, he's gonna have his right foot on the ground, he's gonna flex his left knee. All right, he's gonna lower himself nice and easy. He's gonna tap that left knee on the ground and then come up. Now, go ahead and do a couple reps here, Micah. All right, so what we want here is we really wanna emphasize pushing that left foot in the ground, that right foot in the ground and not pulling himself up, which is why we have the open hand grip. And as I mentioned before, really getting that deep bend in the ankles, the knees, and the hips, just as if we were sprinting. So if you're not doing this exercise, you really want to add it to your repertoire because it's a great drill for building speed and generating force. We do it right here at Booth.
Thank God, first of all. I thank the great people that I've got around me that help support me, the people that work for me. As I started, if it wasn't for the people around me, we probably wouldn't be here right now, but I've got a great staff. I've got great people that do stuff for us outside the store, and we've been very, very fortunate. Our service is impeccable, and we just keep trying to get better every year. We can do online stuff for your teams, as well as, like I said, the screen printing, the embroidery. We also have 3 women that do extra sewing for us, like tackle tool on uniforms, or the bling or rhinestones for different shirts for the ladies. That's why we have certain racks just for certain schools, and the fun about that is that it turns into other schools that may come in here that aren't as close, that we can do stuff for them as well. We've had very, very good customers throughout the years, and it's just been a blast.
We focus on the customer here. Believe it or not, that is the biggest thing for customers on an oil change. They just want the convenience of coming in, driving in, getting it done, and driving out. We just greet them, get them going, and they're done in about 10 minutes or so. We don't push any sales on them. We do the oil change, and I think that's what sets us apart is our customer service. Vacuumed and cleaned your windshield for you as well. Everything's looking pretty good. You come into us one time, believe me, we'll spoil you and you'll be ready to come back the next time.
Adopt U.S. Kids and the Ad Council.
From the Cold Star Ice Studios, it's Fox Sports IE, 1350 AM, KUBE, Riverside.
I'd say in a given week, I probably only do about 15 minutes of real, actual work.
We're back to the Inland Sports Show. Here are your hosts, Pep Fernandez and Jeff Gorham.
Welcome back to the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM, Vinny, we're an hour into the show. How do you feel? Are you holding up all right? Need some Gatorade? Or?
I'm feeling good. It's like a marathon compared to those Saturday ones. Those Saturday ones were already done. I was already on the road on the way home.
Donut in hand, out of the studio.
Picking up my Diet Dr. Pepper at the Farmer Boys and headed home.
No, this is a marathon now. We're on weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. So load up on the Gatorade. You know, I covered a high school football game in Weed, California. It's a real place at the base of Mount Shasta. It was the Weed Bobcats. I think it was the Rio Vista Rams, I want to say. But they had this huge jar of, I won't say what it looked like, but it was pickle juice.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that? Like, there's guys going over there, like, taking a cup, put it in this big jar, taking a swig of it, and running back out on the field. I had seen the mustard, like, just having a thing of mustard. You squirt it in your mouth, go back out for the cramps. But it was a big thing of pickle juice, and they call it their super secret juice. And it was just pickle juice.
We were Pedialyte guys. We would always have Pedialyte. We'd for the kids that wanted it, we'd do it right before the game, and then again at halftime. You know, the Pedialyte to try to replace the electrolytes. So we were Pedialyte guys, but I've heard heard the pickle juice, I've heard the mustard, I've heard all the tricks, but we were always Pedialyte guys.
I think you're still a Pedialyte guy because Luca's not that old, right? So
yeah, you know what? Luca's been a little bit of a Pedialyte guy the last couple days, so we're kind of powering through it though for old Luca. So hopefully he's getting some sleep, or hopefully his mom's getting some sleep.
Well, if you're out of the house doing the one and only Inland Sports Show, she might be on her feet right now.
Yeah, it's been a couple hard nights for her. So hopefully maybe if he can get a nap today, maybe she can get a little nap too.
Between Luca not feeling well and Vinny and his college football bowl season planted on the couch, I mean, it's tough around the Fazio household.
I've been rooting pretty hard too in these games. I've had some money on these games, so I've been rooting pretty hard. It's been nail biting time. South Florida took me down to the wire. Oklahoma State took me down to the wire last night. I thought I might get backdoor covered, so it's been pretty stressful in the Fazio house.
Stressful holiday season. Well, welcome back to the Inland Sports Show. We were talking about Pat Hill and Fresno State and what a great job Jeff Tedford has been doing with the Bulldogs. And although Alexander Mattison and the Broncos, they got him in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. But Pat Hill, you were saying in the commercial break, friends with the legendary Dick Bruick.
Yeah, good close friends.
And now it makes sense. I actually looked up Pat Hill. I've interviewed him a bunch of times when I used to cover the Fresno State football team. But he's actually from Lake Arrowhead. He went to Rim of the World High School, and his official college is listed as UC Riverside. So I'm assuming he graduated from UCR. So he's an Inland Empire guy. I didn't even know that.
Rim of the World has had some really good football played there. Bob Gradius, obviously a legend head coach up there, but I always thought Rim of the World was a really cool place and a place that has played really good football. I don't know if you remember the Fog game years back, Rim of the World and Kaiser in the fog where you literally couldn't see what was happening on the field because the fog had set in.
And I think there was another one of my first years in the Inland Empire. I want to say they were playing Ontario Christian, and they actually had to move the game. I think it was the Citrus Valley because the weather conditions and specifically the fog were so bad up on the mountain. They moved the game down here for the CIF Southern Section Championship.
For that Kaiser game, my cousin was the filmer at Kaiser. He was the film guy.
He didn't see anything.
He goes, I didn't see a thing. I just have a whole full game of tape of fog where there's nothing. There's just fog right in front of the camera.
Well, if Pat Hill's interested, maybe one day he could return to Rim of the World.
Maybe.
Would that be crazy?
Restore the Rim of the World.
Oh my gosh, we can start rumors right now on the Inland Sports Show. Pat Hill coming back to Lake Arrowhead.
That would be a pretty big one. That would be a story.
Welcome back. We're brought to you by Spoiled, quick quality oil change, Ken Sporting Goods, Boost Performance Training, and Catalano Motors in Corona. We appreciate you tuning in. Jeff, once again, is on the road with the UC Riverside men's basketball team. Vinny Fazio co-hosting today as we enter our second hour. We're talking a little high school football now as we just gave Pat Hill the Rim of the World job. We'll move on from there. But there's been a lot of movement, Vinny, this offseason, and I predict there'll be a lot more and maybe some new openings as we get into the new year. But the big one that really sent shockwaves everywhere was Kurt Bruick making the jump from Redlands East Valley to Citrus Valley. Now, from the outside looking in, people say, well, he won a state championship. He built Rev into a powerhouse. Why leave? Take me inside Coach Bruick's head. Why would he want to leave?
Well, first of all, I think we're about halfway on the coaching thing. There's 53 openings. I think there'll be about 105, 110. So I think we're about halfway. The deal with Coach Bruick, look, it's been out there for a couple of years that he was frustrated about the stadium issue, that Rev didn't have a stadium. I think that was the facility was a big part of it. And then I think when you've done something for as long as he's done it, I think, there's this idea of wanting a new challenge, of wanting to build something new and try something new. So I think that's part of it too. Obviously, with the way the CIF is structured now, Citrus Valley is in the same league, but a little bit of a lower division. So maybe thought that was a better fit, rather than having to slog it out with the Division II, the uplands of the world.
Division 8. Citrus Valley was Division 8.
And Citrus Valley is a lower division, so maybe that's in the mindset too. I mean, certainly that's something that exists, and so I think there's a couple of things that went into it. I know that the AD at Citrus Valley is one of Kurt's old assistant coaches, so I'm sure that was probably a selling point for Kurt. Was listen, get to work with one of your, because so much of it's about that. So much of it's about who your admin is and who your support system is, and when you have the right people. I've worked at both kind of places. When you have the right people, it's so nice.
Yeah.
And so to be able to go work for somebody that he really trusts and really believes in, I think that's probably a big part of it too. So I think there's a lot that went into it. I don't think it's any one thing. I think you take a bunch of things and put them all together, and the truth was he's kind of locked in money-wise to the Redlands district. Once you've been in a district that long, it's really hard to change because you take a big money loss.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
So if he was going to move, I mean, there really weren't that many options, and Citrus, this turned out that he thought this was the right time to pull the trigger.
Do you see any similarities between like what his dad did, Dick Bruick? He built up Fohi, then he went to the new school, Kaiser. Not that Citrus Valley is necessarily new, but it's the newest school in the city of Redlands. He's going from a school that he established, Rev, and now he's going to a school, Citrus Valley, that's looking for an identity. And why not go get the best thing out there, and that would be Kurt Bruick?
I think there's some similarities and some differences. I mean, obviously when Fontana was Fontana, there's not a lot of comparisons to what Fontana was at that time. Fontana and Eisenhower were not just
life, right?
They were not just area powers. They were national powers at that time. So there's that, and then when Dick left Fontana to go to Kaiser, I think there was an element of wanting to open the new school. Kaiser was a new school. I think he wanted to do that, but Fontana, I don't think there's not a lot of local. I mean, I guess Corona Centennial would be the only local comparison that you could have to what Fontana and Eisenhower were at that time on a national power level. So there's that. And then, but here's the interesting thing for me about the Citrus Valley. They're in the same league. I mean, Kaiser and Fontana weren't ever going to play each other at that time. Kaiser was Division New and Fontana was Division I. I mean, you were playing the Orange Counties and the privates, and they were Division I. So they were never going to cross. Citrus Valley's going to play Rev next year.
Oh, yeah.
That game's happening next year. So I think that's really interesting, whereas, Dick was kind of out of it. Kaiser was new. They were opening. They were playing Silver Valley and kind of some smaller building. I remember I covered the Silver Valley Kaiser game for the San Bernardino Sun. Absolutely. I covered that game. So I remember that game. But great game too, by the way. But Kurt's going to play Rev next year. So that's an interesting deal. That'll be an interesting game, and I think there'll be a lot of hype and a lot of interest going into that game next year.
When we had Coach Bruick on the show, I said, well, it's not like this is a new place for you because he was playing home games at Citrus Valley already anyways. It's his home away from home.
Absolutely. He'll know where the lockers are. Yeah. He'll know where everything is. No, it won't be.
Just different sideline, I guess.
Well, not really, right? Didn't they coached from the home side when he was there?
Really?
Yeah, I think. When we were at Ike, we were on the visitor side, and they were on the home
Dodge
side.
Stadium. There's one of them that Bruick
wouldn't go on the home side.
Yeah, he just wouldn't cross that line.
No, I think they were on the home side at Citrus Valley, so I don't think it'll be different. It'll be very similar. I think program-wise, they'll be able to build Citrus Valley up. They'll be good and competitive pretty fast. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the staff because Gavin Pachot, obviously, who was the offensive coordinator at Citrus Valley, son is a very good quarterback at Citrus Valley, so. Be interesting to see if he's retained. If he's not retained, does he go somewhere else? Does the son stay? I mean, I think there's some interesting questions.
Do you have a hunch?
I don't have a hunch, but I will say, I'm just going to put this out in the universe as a Fohi alum. Gavin Pachot to Fohi. How about that? I mean, Fohi people, let's get behind that. Gavin Pachot Gumby as the head coach. He's an alum. He did a great job at Rialto. I don't know if he's looking for a head coaching job. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not.
Give him one. We'll just do it right now.
Listen.
Fohi's open, right?
Fohi's open. They need a guy that'll stay there and establish them and be the guy. And
he's a former Steeler, correct?
He's an alum. He played for my dad, played for Dick and my dad at Fohi. Was a great player. One of my favorite players, a tight end at Fontana, right around the same time as Kurt and those guys. So Joey Mariani. So that to me, if I'm Brandon Colburn, the athletic director of Fohi, I'm at least shooting a text, right, to Coach Pachot and saying, hey, brother, what about coming back, man? Let's get the band back together. I'm just putting it out there, man. I have no knowledge on this. I'm not a secret source.
You just want to put it out in the universe.
Putting it out in the universe.
Twitter, do your thing, and don't at Vinny.
Coach Pachot's a great coach. He did a great job at Rialto. Remember, Rialto was as bad can be. When he took over, they were good. They went to the playoffs. They were always competitive. We played them when I was at Carter. We beat them both my years, but it was hard. I mean, we were lucky to win those 2 games. They were always well prepared, always well coached. I certainly would vouch for him as a reference of an opposing coach. So Fohi may have a great guy. I don't know. They may already have a plan, but if they don't, be worth a text.
Was he the head coach of Rialto when you had those battles with the Knights when you were at Carter and you had Nathaniel Akinbimi?
We did.
Is that who it was?
We did. We had Nate Akinbimi both those years. One year we blocked the punt. Nate Akinbimi picked it up and ran it back.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
That was it. To win that game.
2011,
we were behind.
I want to say.
We were behind. We were behind with about 3 minutes to go in the game, and Doug Daniels blocked the punt, and Nate Akinbimi picked it up and ran it for touchdown, gave us the lead, and won the game on that block punt. But if they just get that punt off, if all they have to do is get the punt in the air, they probably beat us that year. And that was the year we were 11-2, played in the semifinals, and could have very easily lost that game. They had Tyler Telfy was their running back, and they had that was a really good little team. And like I said, Coach Pachot, I thought, did a great job at Rialto. I think he deserves another chance somewhere. Why not come back home, man?
Yeah.
So I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out there in the universe.
Twitter, do your thing. You heard it here first on the Inland Sports Show. And that leaves us with Rev and RHS, Redlands High School. They both need head coaches. I know Derek Dial had the interim tag. Maybe they'll just simply take the interim tag off if Coach Dial wants it. But now Rev has a big opening. How do you fill the shoes of the great Kurt Bruick?
Yeah, I think certainly Coach Dial's got a chance, right? I mean, the truth is the Redlands High School job's been open for, 16 months now?
Yeah, since Jim Walker announced
that was October, last year. So I'm not sure. I haven't heard a lot of noise out of there. I've heard some names, but, I don't know I hate to spread rumors that I don't know are kind of anything.
We just gave Pat Hill the Rim of the World job.
Right, so I guess you can do whatever. But
that's a highly coveted job still.
I think there will be people that will want that Rev job. Yeah. I've heard some names of people that potentially could be people there. So I think somebody good will get that Rev job. They'll want somebody good, and they'll get somebody good, and they'll continue to be competitive. I have no doubt.
And one more head coaching job that let's touch on real quick as Vista Marietta circled back to Peterson. And when you were at Marietta Valley, he was still the DC, right?
I think he was the offensive coordinator.
Or he's the OC.
Olson was the DC. Peterson was the OC.
Because I think Peterson's done both, from what I understand, at Vista Marietta at one point or another.
I think he was doing the offense at that time.
So when Coley Candell stepped down the first time, it was between Olson and Peterson. They went with Olson. Now they're going back to Peterson this time. Do you like that fit?
Yeah, I mean, I think for whatever reason, Vista does not have the same talent level they had a couple of years ago. So I don't know what has happened there. I don't know if their guys are going different places, if it's spread out, if whatever's happened. Now, they're still a very good team. Don't get me wrong. Vista's a very good team. Here's the other thing that happened to Vista last year. They played an extraordinarily difficult schedule.
Oh, their non-league
schedule was off the charts.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really judge Coach Olson off of that. They're in Division I. They're playing the Mater Days of the world in the playoffs. Their league loss was to Marietta Valley, who was extraordinarily good the last 2 years. Yeah, and then Great Oak beat them. But so I think Vista Marietta, if you just look for a few years, they were talent-wise right there with the Corona Centennials. I mean, they were getting
those Inland Division Championship games, those 4 in a row with Centennial were crazy.
They were getting those same kind of guys. That hasn't been the case the last couple of years. So
And we've seen the rise of Marietta Valley.
Marietta Valley's gotten some guys, and Great Oak's got some guys, and Chaparral's had some 5-star guys, O-linemen. So I think it's diffused. The talent has diffused a little bit out there, whereas it used to kind of all coalesce at Vista Marietta. I don't know that they'll ever get that back. I don't know that that's ever something that it'll ever coalesce around one school again like it kind of did around Vista for those years. So are they going to get back to where they were before? I don't know that's in the cards, but can they get back to winning that league? Certainly. I mean, I think certainly Vista. You've always got to talk about Vista Marietta as a chance to win the Southwestern League. Marietta Valley should be decent again. Great Oak, I think, is fine. It looks like Chaparral's maybe turned a corner. Bird Esposito, Temecula Valley, and Marietta Mesa had the best team they've ever had last year. So
CIF semifinals.
I think you've got some talent that's kind of diffused off, whereas it all used to kind of be located at Vista. I think it's kind of spread out there a little bit.
Well, Coley Candale's still the athletic director, so he's got his hands somewhere, his fingerprints are somewhere on that program. So it can't be that bad.
Well, the first thing they got to do is ease up their schedule. They can't be going to Colquitt County, Georgia, game 1, and then coming back and playing Orange Lutheran, and then that's not a recipe for.
Yeah, between them and Norco, I think they started the season to combine like 0-7. We're like, what is going on? Norco and Vista Marietta are like winless.
And I get it. No one wanted to play them. It's hard to find games. I mean, Centennial only had 9 games this year because no one wanted to play them. It's hard to find games when no one wants to play you when you're good. So I get that. You got to play. You got to get games, but at the same time, if that schedule going to Georgia to play Colquitt County, that's not a joke. I mean, those guys that's real life big boy, pull on your big boy pants football. And so if you're going to open the season with that kind of a schedule, that's hard for anybody. That's a tough row to hoe. It doesn't matter who your coach is.
All right, when we come back here on the Inland Sports Show, we'll talk about the 33rd Annual IE All-Star Classic. It's coming up in just a couple weeks, and a little bit later in the show, we'll break down a tough loss for UC Riverside in men's basketball last night at Utah Valley. The Highlanders actually had a really good game. They just picked a really bad night to play Utah Valley. They shot the lights out of that place. They had a game for the ages, I guess you could say, for the Wolverines, as they just simply could not miss against UCR. So we'll talk about that matchup as well. We'll be back. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM.
We're small, family-owned, strive for quality pre-owned vehicles. We're not a volume dealer, and we take every deal as personal to us. We're a low-stress environment. We're not a pressure sales house. If you want to shop us, you're more than welcome to shop us. We have, like I said, great rates, competitive financing, a lot of one-owner, clean Carfax, clean title vehicles. As you see, we have Carfax everywhere. That's most important to us, to educate our customers before they make a purchase. We're right off of Ontario, right off a couple exits off the 15 freeway, off Cajelco, off El Cerrito, and we're right on the main drag going into Dos Logos and the crossings. We have great financing, we have great lenders that we're using. We do buy, sell, trade, cash for your car. Whatever we need to do to help accommodate the customer, that's what we're here for. We have a little bit of everything. We start at about $69.95 and go all the way up to $100,000. We have Escalades, we have commuters, we have pickup trucks, we have Jeeps, sport utilities, and if we don't have it, our specialty is finding you exactly what you're looking for.
Focus on the customer here. Believe it or not, that is the biggest thing for customers on an oil change. They just want the convenience of coming in, driving in, getting it done, and driving out. Just greet them, get them going, and they're done in about 10 minutes or so. We don't push any sales on them. We do the oil change, and I think that's what sets us apart is our customer service. Vacuumed and cleaned your windshield for you as well. Everything's looking pretty good. You come into us one time, believe me, we'll spoil you and you'll be ready to come back the next time.
Thank God, first of all. I thank the great people that I've got around me that help support me, the people that work for me. As I started, if it wasn't for the people around me, we probably wouldn't be here right now, but I've got a great staff. I've got great people that do stuff for us outside the store, and we've been very, very fortunate. Our service is impeccable, and we just keep trying to get better every year. We can do online stuff for your teams, as well as, like I said, the screen printing, the embroidery. We also have 3 women that do extra sewing for us, like tackle tool on uniforms, or the bling or rhinestones for different shirts for the ladies. That's why we have certain racks just for certain schools, and the fun about that is that it turns into other schools that may come in here that aren't as close, that we can do stuff for them as well. We've had very, very good customers throughout the years, and it's just been a blast.
We're back to the Inland Sports Show. Here are your hosts, Pep Fernandez and Jeff Gorham.
And welcome back to the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. I'm Pep Fernandez. That's Vinny Fazio. Vinny, you look like you're having a good time.
There was a little EDM music going on there in the background for a second. I was kind of grooving. I was put myself back in the Omnia. Like when I was in Vegas, I was in the Omnia, man. Put myself back in that mindset.
Is that what was going on?
Just for a few seconds.
We're brought to you by Spoiled, Quick Quality Oil Change, Kin Sporting Goods, Boost Performance Training, and Catalano Motors in Corona off Temescal Canyon Road. We were talking about the 33rd Annual Inland Empire All-Star Classic. It's coming back. It's just a couple of weeks away. It's January 13th, and it's really taken on a life of its own on Twitter. I put it out there, hey, it's coming up. post, retweet, tag some players that you think deserve to be in the 33rd Annual Inland Empire All-Star Classic. And, of course, it took off, I don't want to say like wildfire because that kind of hits a little too close to home, but it was the very hot-button issue on social media, even Instagram, as people were coming out of the woodwork suggesting seniors from across the IE to play in this Inland Empire tradition, 33 years strong, a game that you played in, Vinny, not too long ago.
Let's talk about me playing football, Pep.
Not too long ago. But you played in this game.
Did.
How big of honor was that for you?
It was an awesome game. It was. I got John Monger was our coach from Chino High. I don't know if you remember John Monger, but he was our coach, another legend that I got to play for that week. And it was an awesome experience playing with all the great players from the area. That game was at what's now San Manuel Stadium.
The home of the 66ers?
On the baseball diamond. So I remember coming out of that. First of all, we won the game. That's the first thing I remember. And the second thing I remember is I had the worst scrapes and cuts from that baseball diamond from the infield. It was like road rash. It was like crashing a motorcycle after that game. It took me 2 weeks to get back to where I could function. I was so scraped up and messed up after that game.
So now they like to play the game right after the football season, but before National Signing Day. And I know there's an early signing period now, which we just had in December. Now it's always like that first Wednesday in February, but they like to squeeze the All-Star game in between those two. When you played, was it also in January? Because I know there's a lot of All-Star games like in the spring and summer.
Ours was in the summer.
Was it really?
It was the first week of the summer. I had to come back early from the family vacation at Lake Havasu to get to the first practice. Yeah, it was at that time it was in the summer. But I think colleges started kind of discouraging guys from playing in those summer All-Star games because they didn't want them to get hurt and have to miss the off-season training and stuff. So I think that's why they went to an earlier format.
I remember covering a high school all-star game up in Redding, California, when I was at the ABC 7 up there. And they had it was like the second week in August. So it's like 110 degrees. And it's a bunch of seniors who had already graduated in May. And they're saying, hey, come back 3 months later. You're out of high school. You're technically an adult now. Some of you have real jobs, are going to college. But we want you to come back and put the pads on one more time. We're going to play a high school all-star game with last year's seniors to get ready for the new football season. It was just kind of bizarre to me. I never really understood it and how they could actually get the guys to come back and play one more game.
Our game was a blast. We had some really good players. Jason Kipp from North and Solomon Bates and Adam Wade. These guys are NFL guys. Of course, they all played on the Riverside team. They all played against us. We had Aaron Hosack.
Those guys.
We had Aaron Hosack, who was our tight end, who ended up playing for the Minnesota Vikings for a while. But he caught the winning touchdown. But it was just a great experience. There was a lot of people there. I'll never forget it. It was one of my favorite, most fun games I ever played in.
So back then, and I know it's probably the same exact way now. You have guys. Let's say I'm your rival, and we're playing on the same team. Do you go into a practice and you're like, you know what? Season's over. I want to get to know this guy. Maybe he's not as bad as everyone's telling me he is. He's my rival, but I'm going to give him a chance.
It was really interesting our year because that was the year, I know you weren't around back then, but that was the year of the big fight between A.B. Miller and Fontana. After the game with A.B. Miller that year, a game we also won, 16-14. After that
remember all the scores, too.
After that game, there was a big fight. And so there was kind of this thing of we had a couple All-Stars from Fohi, they had a couple from Miller, and there was kind of this thing about what's going to happen when these guys all show up at the same place.
So what did happen?
You know what? They were great guys. Shaheed Richardson and Jeff McGarity, Lamar Anderson, Nick Barnett, Jeremiah Cochran, Justin Colbert. They had a bunch of good guys. And they were great guys. We went right over and shook hands and said, hey, listen, that stuff's all over. We're grown now. Let's go play and let's go try to beat Riverside County. And so it really was fast that we kind of made friends. But there was some questions when we were pulling up to that thing of how are these guys going to react when we get out of the car.
See, I always think that's an interesting dynamic. I know you're shocked to hear I never played on an all-star team. I know you're looking at me, you're like, I don't believe that, but it's true. So I don't understand that dynamic when you can have rivals who, you spend your whole career, maybe 4 years of your high school life saying, I'm going to destroy that guy. We're going to beat those guys. I can't stand that guy. And you're like, hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
Yeah,
nice to meet you. What's your favorite color?
No one disliked each other more than Fontana and A.B. Miller disliked each other that year. And so we were able to get over that. And Lamar Anderson ran a punt back, helped us win the game. And I tried to cheap shot Solomon Bates and crackback block him, and I threw my whole body into him, and he knocked me about 20 yards. He didn't even see me. He was just running. I don't even know if he felt it to this day. I threw everything I could into him to try to cheap shot him, and he didn't even move. I'm not sure he saw me. I definitely don't think he felt it, but one of the funnest games I ever played in. Love that game. I'm glad they're still playing it. I think it's cool that it's back to San Bernardino, Riverside, and hopefully San Bernardino can get back in the games. They haven't been very competitive lately, so.
Yeah, they've done some different things in recent years. One was the IE versus the Orange County, and we killed them. Matt Logan was the head coach that year, a couple of years ago, and we destroyed Orange County. They didn't want to do it again.
Yeah.
Big shock, right? And then they did the draft. We had Jim Walker and Derek Johnson. They did the draft.
And that was a pretty close game last year,
It was
right?
very close.
Yeah.
It came down to the final drive.
Yeah.
And, man, if I'm trying to remember, I think it was 22-19, the Jim Walker team.
Martinez, what's the first name of the Ukaipa quarter? Nathan Martinez.
Oh, Nathan Martinez.
He's at University of Redlands now.
Yes. He's gonna be something.
I think he's gonna really be something.
Yeah.
They really like him.
Yeah.
At U of R, he's just a little guy.
He gets in at garbage time, but when he gets in there, it's like the game's on the line. It's like the Super Bowl, and he's busting off huge plays.
I think he's really good. I think he's gonna be really good. Now they have their quarterback has one more year. Names escapes me. Levi Plant, Rev guy. He's got one more year, and he's fabulous. But I think there's a good chance Nathan Martinez is a quarterback of the future at the University of Redlands. And I remember him playing in that game, in that All-Star game, watching him. He looked so little. It looked like a little kid was on the field. But then you see him play, and he can make all the throws, and he's athletic, and he's smart, and he throws the right guy. He's so good. But, man, when I first saw him, I thought a ball boy had run out on the field or something.
Who gave the guy a helmet?
Yeah, how did that little guy get a helmet? But boy, you forget really fast how little he is once you see him play.
Well, with your dad coaching at the University of Redlands, you checked out the Bulldogs. I saw, I think, like 2 games this year. And if they were up big in the end, Nathan Martinez, they'd run him out there for a couple plays at the end. And I remember there was a couple times he bust off like a 40-yard run. Like, he wasn't saying, hey, let's just run the football and just end this game. He's like, hey, I wonder if I can punch one in the end zone. I want to break one off for everybody.
Well, he got him in some trouble because there was a couple games where he took him down and scored. And the other team's going, well, why are you guys running it up on us? It's like, bro, that's our freshman backup quarterback. You know, but he was, when he got in the game, he wanted to score and had the ability to move that offense and take them down, and that's big to have with the kind of offense they run at U of R. You know, Levi Plant takes hits. I mean, because he has to run a lot, and he's such a big threat with his legs. But you got to have a guy that's ready to go in there if something happens, if he gets blood on his jersey or something happens, and he's got to come out. So having Nathan Martinez at the University of Redlands is a big weapon. He's really going to, I think, be a really good Sky at quarterback.
Yeah, the U of R is getting a lot of local guys. They're finding ways. I know that's the biggest struggle for any Division III school is it's not cheap, and they got to get guys in there who want to play football and are good at football. And they find creative ways to get that, the money, the financial aid, scholarships, grants, all those sorts of things, jobs, to make sure they can get them in there.
I tweeted a couple of weeks back, guys that didn't get offered, if you didn't get offered, you want to keep playing, take a look at a place like the University of Redlands or any of the D3s. I'm not here to shill for Redlands, although if Coach Maynard's listening, I'll take a recruiting bonus. But, look at those D3s because I played Claremont McKenna College, Claremont Mudscripts Athletic Department, and it was the best experience of my life. I met some of my best friends there. The football is really high level. The players there are good. And so I encourage guys that maybe are disappointed or think, well, I'm not going to play. I'm done. I'm not going to play anymore. Take a look at those D3s, man, because it's high-level football. It's a great education. With the way they do financial aid, John Peel will tell you, he's a counselor at U of R. He's on Twitter, follow of mine, and he'll tell you they want you to come there. They want kids to get in. They try to make it so you can get in, not just football kids, but everybody. They want kids to be able to afford it and to come there. So take a look at those D3s, man, and it would be great to get a lot of locals at U of R and build that thing into a monster.
Such fun football, like the environment. It feels like a college football game.
It's different, isn't it? It's a different feeling. It doesn't feel like a high school game. And I remember after the first college game I played, you go there and you think, well, I was a really good player in high school. This is going to be easy. I remember after the first college game I played, and I was only playing about half the game. I was rotating in. And I remember I thought I got hit by a train. I mean, those guys are grown men that are hitting you. They've been working out for 4 years. They're 23 years old. Some of them have kids, and they're hitting you, and it's like, holy smoke. I had to peel myself up off the couch the next morning like, Oh, this is a different deal.
Football.
This is big boy real life football, and so like I said, it's different. It feels different. It feels like college football. It takes a special kind of guy to be a D3 guy. But boy, if you do it and make it, it's worth it. And Nathan Martinez just sticks in my mind because he did such a great job for them in the times he got in last year, and hopefully he keeps that rolling.
Well, if Coach Maynard or Coach Mariani's out there listening, we'd love to see you at the IE All-Star Classic. It's January 13th. It's at Centennial High School. I'm going to go out on a limb, say there might be a guy or two in that All-Star game that's going to end up at the University of Redlands.
No doubt about it. They get some of those guys every year. And by the way, Coach Maynard and Coach Mariani are recruiting right now. So if you don't think they're working, they're in the office right now on the phones recruiting.
We talked to Coach Mariani a couple weeks ago on the anniversary of that Faux High team that won the national title. And I said, where are you? And he's like, I'm on my way back from Temecula. I just pulled over on the side of the road. He was visiting all those Southwestern League schools trying to find some Bulldogs.
I guarantee you, Coach Maynard is in his office right now on the phone with recruits. 4:35 on a Friday on December 29th. He's go Bulldogs, and he'll be in there for another 4.5 hours.
Does your dad hit the recruiting trail?
You know what? My dad does. He's not like those guys are. Those guys are, and Jeff Thomas was there. He's at University of Puget Sound now. He was there when I was there. And you got to really go, man. It's a winner go home business. And
if you're not, somebody else is.
I was in that life, man. I love doing it. I loved recruiting at U of R because you talk to some of the best kids, some of the nicest. Take all of your this is what I tell guys that are thinking about coaching or playing at U of R or play Claremont or any of those, Laverne, any of those D3s. Take all of your favorite guys you've ever coached or you've ever been around. That's the team at the University of Redlands, at Laverne, at Claremont. It's a whole team of those guys. It's everybody's favorite guy. It's everybody's nicest kid. It's everybody's best kid. That's who plays at those places. Just an awesome place.
Well, the 33rd annual Inland Empire All-Star Classic is coming up. It's January 13th at Centennial High School.
I put in a couple tweets, man. Los Osos had a couple guys that I think belong in that game, and Oak Hills had a couple guys. Oak Hills is always underrepresented in those games.
Blow up Nick Matheny.
Oak Hills. I'm gonna call Matheny when I get out of here.
He's your guy.
Reggie Gaines, Alon Jordan, Justin Monajo, Zion Brown, and at Los Osos, Connor Helsius, Kyle Jorgensen, and 3 offensive linemen. They always need O-linemen in those things.
They're always short on the O-line. 3
offensive linemen at Los Osos that should all be in that game.
So it's
Matheny. Get those guys.
Nick Matheny for the San Bernardino side, and Matt Logan from Centennial coaching up the Riverside County All-Stars.
Hey, watch out for the zone read, too, Matheny. They're going to run the zone read at you.
They're going to do it. You know they're going to do it, right, with Matt Logan at the helm. That's January 13th. That's a Saturday night at Centennial High School. When we come back, we'll talk about that UC Riverside game against Utah Valley last night. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM.
Yeah, thank God it's Friday.
How you guys doing? Coach Ray here. We're back at the Boost Performance Center with the one and only Pep Fernandez. Today we're going to go over our A-Skip series. We've got a couple of great videos for you guys. Come check us out. All right, so we're back with our Boost Performance School student athletes, building on our A-Skip series here. So the next drill is going to be a complete absolute speed A-Skip. So we've gone over the acceleration A-Skip, we've gone over a butt kick skip. Now it's the complete A-Skip. So really that completes the cycle. I'm going to get that rhythm. I'm going to pull my heel to my butt. I'm going to step over my opposite knee and put that foot down as quickly as possible. I don't want to kick my knee out. It's all in the hip here. Heel to the butt, step around the knee and put it down quick. Absolute speed A-Skip, really opening up the stride here. So Josh is going to start us off. He's going to get that rhythm. Now we're looking for that cycle here. Over and around. Over and around here, Josh. Here we go, Samari. There it is. Bring it around. Bring it around. Good. Heel to the butt. Good. There it is. Good. We're going to go heel to the butt first. There it is. Good. Put it back down. All in the hip. Good. So we don't want to extend our knee too much. We want to get that heel tight. Good. Nice, DT. Bring it over and around. Good. All right, so that completes our skip series. We're really big on technique. Teaching athletes how to run is everything, and we do it right here at Boost. Whether it's acceleration, top end speed, we know speed here.
Thank God, first of all. I thank the great people that I've got around me that help support me, the people that work for me. As I started, if it wasn't for the people around me, we probably wouldn't be here right now, but I've got a great staff. I've got great people that do stuff for us outside the store, and we've been very, very fortunate. Our service is impeccable, and we just keep trying to get better every year. We can do online stuff for your teams, as well as, like I said, the screen printing, the embroidery. We also have 3 women that do extra sewing for us, like tackle tool on uniforms, or the bling or rhinestones for different shirts for the ladies. That's why we have certain racks just for certain schools, and the fun about that is that it turns into other schools that may come in here that aren't as close, that we can do stuff for them as well. We've had very, very good customers throughout the years, and it's just been a blast.
We focus on the customer here. Believe it or not, that is the biggest thing for customers on an oil change. They just want the convenience of coming in, driving in, getting it done, and driving out. We just greet them, get them going, and they're done in about 10 minutes or so. We don't push any sales on them. We do the oil change, and I think that's what sets us apart is our customer service. Vacuumed and cleaned your windshield for you as well. Everything's looking pretty good. You come into us one time, believe me, we'll spoil you and you'll be ready to come back the next time.
It's in like bright blue neon lights with like purple outline. And this name is just so bright and so sharp that the sign, it just blows up because the name is just so powerful.
Now back to the Inland Sports Show. Here's Pep and Jeff.
Welcome back. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. I'm Pep Fernandez. That's Vinny Fazio. Jeff Gorham is somewhere, I'm going to guess, in the air above the northeastern corner of Oregon. Maybe the southwestern tip of Montana, maybe on his way to Seattle.
Going to Seattle, huh? Seattle's nice.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
I've been there twice. I wasn't overly impressed.
I was in Seattle in October. Went to visit my buddy, who's a lawyer up there, and we had a fun time, man. He lives pretty close to the Quest Link, and they had a game there that night, and people were at the bars, and it was a fun time. We had a blast. Real estate's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, real.
Well, if you're a lawyer, you're okay up there, right?
He's even not totally. it's a pretty penny up there, man.
You got to be making that Marshawn Lynch money.
Absolutely.
To be living up there in Seattle. Marshawn Lynch was the running back, I believe, when they created seismic activity right inside the football stadium. Was that Seahawks Saints?
It was against the Saints when he broke the tackle.
A wild card playoff
broke the big
game.
long run.
Yeah.
I believe that's the year the Seahawks were under 500. Got into the playoffs at like 7-9.
You're right. That was just the beginning of.
Yeah.
Like the Seattle team's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of that Pete Carroll push.
I believe that was
Seattle.
And the Saints were pretty good. The Saints had been good, and that was a kind of a little bit of an upset. But I remember I was watching that game when it happened, watching that run, Beast Mode, the original Beast Mode run.
That's right. That's right. When he was in his prime. My best Seattle memory, I went up there with my grandparents when I was about 12 or 13. We went to the old Kingdome. Remember the Kingdome where the Seattle Mariners played? So we were there watching the Seattle Mariners against the Texas Rangers. Rangers had Ruben Sierra. Like that was my Texas Rangers team. So we leave, right, to beat the crowd and the traffic. And we get outside and we hear all the fireworks going off inside the Kingdome. We get in the car, we turn on the radio. Some new kid named King Griffey Jr. just hit a walk-off bomb. I was like, man, this King Griffey Jr. guy's pretty good. Turns out, yeah, he's one of the greatest of all time. I didn't get to see it, though.
Ken Griffey Jr. was at San Bernardino Fiscalini Field.
That's right.
For like 2 weeks. So my dad, I knew nothing about baseball. Skip, my dad knows nothing about less than nothing about baseball. Has no interest in knowing anything, but he goes, we're going to go see this guy. Everybody's telling me he's the guy. So we show up, we get there early. He's warming up. I have no idea who he is. I'm going down because I'm a little kid trying to get autographs. Ken Griffey Jr. signed a baseball for me. I had no idea who he was, but my dad was like, hang on to that. You're going to want to keep that, son. That's important. But I just remember I was just some little kid in the crowd, and he was the nicest guy.
So where's that ball?
Skip's got it. Skip's probably got it hidden away, so he probably sold it. But, Ken Griffey Jr., he was – I remember at Fiscalini Field.
Yeah, man.
Fiscalini
San Bernardino
Field.
claims him.
Yeah.
San Bernardino's spirit.
The spirit.
Right.
He was like 2 weeks. He was in and out. If you blinked, you missed him.
Oh, he went through the minor league system so fast. Like everyone knew this guy had MLB written all over him. Yeah, San Bernardino still claims him. People still talk about, hey, remember when King Griffey Jr. played for San Bernardino?
2 weeks, literally 2 weeks.
He was barely here, but yeah, we do remember that.
The other thing I remember about the Kingdome is Bo Jackson going up. That's where Bo Jackson went all the way up the ramp, right? Up the tunnel after the touchdown.
He was a fantastic center
because
fielder.
He couldn't stop. Well, that was in football when he was with the Raiders.
Well, that too. Yeah, that too.
And he broke up the sideline and he couldn't stop and went all the way up the tunnel.
Into the tunnel. He ran off the field and like out of the camera sight, right?
Bo Jackson, man.
I have his autograph on a football. My uncle got it for me. Yeah, in fact, might have been the same Christmas where I got, because in my day when I collected baseball cards, it was all about the Upper Deck set.
Okay.
And it was like one of the first ones where King Griffey Jr. was card number 1. And I know all you baseball nerds out there know exactly what I'm talking about. The Upper Deck set where King Griffey Jr.'s card was number 1, and they numbered them like one.
That was like a $500 card or something like
that.
It
is. Yeah. And they numbered like all the players were in there. It was like 1 through 1,000. And I remember my dad on Christmas Day, like I opened it, I'm like, this is so cool. And then he had to take all the cards, like in the box, and he had to put them all in the sleeves. So he spent all day Christmas putting them all in the sleeves. And I remember, Dad, be careful. King Griffey Jr.'s number 1. Like he was the first card you put in. Be careful. That's King Griffey Jr. And I still have that Upper Deck set.
The baseball cards was the Bitcoin of the day.
The
baseball card.
That's my retirement fund. I'm holding on to that King Griffey Jr. Upper Deck card just in case.
But use that instead of Bitcoin. Don't go buying any Bitcoin, Pep.
No, I'll go.
The time to make money in Bitcoin is over.
Bitcoin, gold, silver, or a King Griffey Jr. rookie card.
Yeah,
I'm going
stick
with the
to the rookie card.
Jeff is probably in Seattle or en route to Seattle right now. UC Riverside coming off a tough loss against Utah Valley last night. The final score was 90-82, and the Wolverines built a big lead. Yes, UCR kind of chipped away at it, made it close. The final score again was 90-82, so they pulled within 8. I think the closest they came was within 4. But Utah Valley just had one of those games where they just simply could not miss. So UCR had they set all these season bests last night against Utah Valley, shooting from the floor, and Alex Larson had a career-high 20 points. Chance Murray had a career-high 25. They shot over 55% from the floor, which is the best they've done all season. They had just 10 turnovers, which is a season low. So if you look at the box score, you're like, wow, UC Riverside probably had a huge victory. No, they still lost at Utah Valley. Vinny, did you ever have one of those games where you're like, you know what, everything's going great for us? It's just we ran into another team they're having like the best game of their season.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough on the road, especially when you go to a place that's kind of, you're on your own. It isn't like there's a lot of people traveling to see, you're on your own.
Not a lot of blue and gold popping up.
Not a lot of blue and gold, no, at Utah Valley. So tough when you hit a buzzsaw on the road. And that's the thing about college basketball. You just got to turn it back on and overcome and go to the next one. Sometimes you're going to, Kentucky, you saw Kentucky against Louisville today. Kentucky couldn't throw it in the ocean last week against UCLA. And all of a sudden today, they couldn't miss. They look like, the Golden State Warriors. And sometimes you just got to tip your cap and say, this is the night and this was their night. We're going to go on. And basketball is that kind of game, a little different from football. Basketball, you got to sometimes you just take the L and you got to move on and get the next one.
Yeah, so we're looking at some of the stats right here. So Seattle, they actually played Cal. They lost to Cal 81-59. UCR opened the season with a victory at Cal. So if you like to play that game, which is sometimes dangerous, that's like playing with fire. But if you like to play that game, you're like, okay, this should be a victory for UC Riverside. But again, it's on the road, which is always a funky kind of wacky thing because you never know what you're going to walk into. Like Utah Valley, who I don't know if you've seen her arena, Vinny. Unbelievable. They're in the middle of nowhere. Orem, Utah. If you gave me a map of Utah, I couldn't figure out where it's at. But they've got an awesome arena. They've got awesome fans. And again, they had their best night of the season. They only lost to Kentucky by 10. Utah Valley played Kentucky and Duke on back-to-back nights this season. Who does that? And then they ran into UC Riverside, had the game of their life. So
that's too bad they didn't have one of those against Duke. Pull out the same game against Duke.
Can you imagine? They would have been headlines all over Sports Center and all the big national shows. Utah Valley knocks off. I think Duke was #1 in the country at the time.
That score extrapolator. Dan Swanstrom used to coach with me at the University of Redlands. He's now the head football coach at Ithaca College, and we used to call it the Dan Swanstrom score extrapolator. He would take common opponents and match up the scores, and then if you had like he had like a formula where he could predict the score of the game based on how everybody did.
How accurate was that?
Not accurate at all. We made fun of it all the time, but we always talk about the Dan Swanstrom score extrapolator. We go, oh, well, the score extrapolator says.
It's never wrong.
It never works.
I love to do it, but I'm always wrong. The last time I did it, we did it on this show. We were talking about Cajon playing Sarah for the CIF State Championship. We're like, okay, so let's try to bring this home a little bit so we can understand a little bit more about the Sarah Padres. So Sarah played Pittsburgh from Northern California, and they lost. I think it was like a touchdown game, like 35-28. They lost to Pittsburgh, okay? Well, Centennial crushed Pittsburgh like 65-15 or whatever it was. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, if Cajon played Centennial, what would the score look like, and how would that relate to Pittsburgh, and then how would that transfer over to ultimately Sarah in the state championship game? So I'm like, okay, I think I got Cajon by 2 touchdowns. And, of course, Sarah won, and pretty convincingly.
The 2 issues with the score extrapolator, one is matchups make games. Matchups make fights. So sometimes you just have good or bad matchups. The second thing is when you have a team like Centennial in the extrapolator, it kind of throws off the numbers.
Yeah.
Because the score really, a lot of times when they play, could be whatever they want it to be.
It could be 100-15 as opposed to 60-15.
They're choosing the score rather than, a lot of those games, Centennial just chooses the score. Okay, we want it to be 63-14, so then we stop at 63 instead of going on to 100, which we could do if we really wanted to. So you always got to know where to throw the scores out when you get into the extrapolator. Centennial is a team that you kind of got to throw out.
Yeah, when I thought I had figured it all out, I was like, hey, guys, Cajon's got a chance.
Well, and then Cajon had a couple turnovers early in that game, whereas
it wasn't a typical Cajon game, especially coming off that Rancho Verde game where you're like, okay.
Well, and Rancho Verde turned the ball over several times in that game, so you kind of had some turnovers kind of made those games look a little different than maybe they'd have looked in, and that's the way football works. That's the way any sport works. Some days you're just going to turn the ball over. Kids drop the ball, and so that happened to Rancho Verde. Just they picked a bad night for it to happen.
All right, we come back here on the Inland Sports Show. We're going to try to catch up with UCR head coach Dennis Cutts. Again, they're probably just landing or about to land up in Seattle to take on Seattle University tomorrow. That's a 1 o'clock tip-off at not Key Arena. We found out that Seattle University normally plays at Key Arena, the former home of the Seattle Supersonics.
Ooh, that's a dump.
Yeah, well, it is.
It is a dump.
Hence the reason why they're the Oklahoma City Thunder now, right?
Yeah, that is a dump.
But I guess Seattle University has their own arena or gym or whatever you want to call it on campus. That's where they're playing this one.
They could play in a middle school gym, and it would be nicer than Key Arena. Key Arena is a dump.
So it might be a dump. That may be true. But there's a lot of good memories in that place. I would like to just go there just to be like, hey, this is where the Sonics used to play. They had some really good players and really good teams to come through here. But yeah, not the greatest place for
Don't
NBA.
go there. Don't go there. It should go the way of the sports arena.
Well, UCR taking on Seattle again tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Hoping to get a win coming off that loss against Utah Valley last night. When we come back, we'll talk more about this UCR matchup. Also, we're going to break down more about the Rams and the Chargers as they get set for a potential playoff run. If the Chargers can get in, I think the stars are aligned. I'll see if Vinny's on board with me. I think the stars are aligned for the LA Chargers to get in there. And I also want to tell Vinny why, and he might already know this, why the Chicago Bears are division champs.
AFC North.
But they're not going to the playoffs. We'll talk about that when we come back. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM.
Yeah, thank God it's Friday.
Sherry, can you do this? Rolling with the homies.
Rolling with the homies.
Yeah, let's do it. You ready?
We're back to the Inland Sports Show. Here are your hosts, Pep Fernandez and Jeff Gorham.
Was that Chunk? Was that Goonies? I think it was.
We've had some good selections on the Coming to America is one of my favorite movies. We've had some good selections on the intro movie theme today.
Greg does a good job. He keeps us on our feet.
Yeah.
He really mixes it up. I mean, he's a pitcher that has like 4 or 5 good pitches.
Yeah,
he doesn't just need that one fastball.
No, he's bringing it. He's bringing it today. I feel like maybe just because I'm in here, he's picked up. He's really raised his game.
He's rising to the occasion with Vinny Fazio in the house. Welcome back to the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. Jeff has landed in Seattle. Breaking news. Jeff has landed in Seattle with the UC Riverside men's basketball team. He just fired off a tweet. Said, landed in Seattle, waiting on the tarmac. For some crazy reason, he's feeling melancholy. He needs to wear a flannel, and he's craving coffee. It must be the Seattle weather, right? The Seattle vibe.
Yeah.
Vinny, you like Seattle. Again, you like Seattle.
I had a great time in Seattle. I'm looking forward. My wife wants to go back. We're going to go back and visit.
Last time I was in Seattle, I was with your favorite soccer team, the Ontario Fury.
I'm all about the Ontario Fury.
I was in Seattle, I believe, probably a total of 12 hours.
Nice.
We flew in, I think, at like 5 o'clock. Had a 7:30 game that night. We did the game right here live on Fox Sports 1350 at the time. Slept a couple hours. I was the first flight of the morning. I think I was at the airport at 4:30 a.m. and I was out of Seattle. So I barely saw. All I saw was the 12th man, like the number 12, all over the airport. I bought my kids one of those like crab claw pins that you write with. And in the airport, that was it. And I was back on a plane. I was back home. Like it was like a dream. Like it didn't even happen.
That's the rock star, man. Usually you do that for like a bachelor party or something. But when you get a chance to cover the Ontario Fury, man, you got to do it. You just say yes.
We rolled in. I think I had like a bowl of soup at some little local restaurant. I did the game, went back, slept like 4 hours, got on a plane. I was back in sunny Southern California.
That's the way to do it. In and out.
Big time, man. Like you said, like a rock star. UC Riverside taking on Seattle University tomorrow. That's a 1 o'clock tip on campus, not Key Arena, as we established here. So UCR 5-8, coming off a really strong game against Utah Valley despite the defeat. Chance Murray had that season high 25 points. Alex Larson, the big man, Big Al, he had 20 in defeat. And DK Dikembe Martin, the pride of third in Chicago, he also had 20. So that was the first time that the Highlanders have had 3 players with 20 or more points in one game in the Division I era. So again, they enjoyed their best game of the year, and you come out with a loss. So Vinny, you're a local sports coach. What do you tell a team when you really had a good game, but you still take the L, and you're like, that just doesn't add up?
Well, the nice thing, again, about college basketball, especially at the lower, the mid-majors type leagues, is it really is all about your league play. How you do in the league is what's going to determine, your season success. So it isn't like they're fighting or battling for a at-large spot. They've got to get themselves as good as they can get themselves by the time they're playing those Big West games. And it looks like the Big West is maybe a little more open this year than it's been in the past. Santa Barbara, think maybe is good, but they haven't played.
They were bad last year, but they look pretty good this year.
And they're generally decent, but it doesn't look like Fullerton's great. It looks like maybe Irvine's come back to the pack a little bit. Long Beach State maybe come back to the pack a little bit.
Davis is tough.
Looks like it's open again, kind of, and that's where you got to try to get as high a seed as you can in that Big West tournament.
Yeah, because ultimately it comes down to just 2 or 3 games. In March.
You got to be playing the best you can when you get to that conference tournament, and it really all sets up around that. And so the fact that they played well is more important than the win or the loss last night, in my mind.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to the team, that would be my message.
And you're right, because ultimately, again, it's going to boil down to that conference tournament at the end of the season, because you're not going to get an at-large bid. You either win the Big West and go to the Big Dance, or you don't.
Right. The Big West isn't getting 2 teams.
No.
The Big West is getting 1 team, and they're getting the champion of the conference tournament. And so you want to try to win the conference in the regular season. You want to try to be the regular season champ. And then the biggest thing is you want to try to win that conference tournament and be playing your best when you get into the conference play.
Well, if Jeff can check in live from Seattle, we'll go up to him momentarily. But again, he's stuck on the tarmac, craving coffee right now. Well, speaking of playing well, how about those Chicago Bears? 4-0 in the AFC North. one of the players had a shirt on Twitter. Was it Chris Long?
I think it was Long, yeah.
Yeah, they're 5-10 overall on the season, so they're not going to the playoffs. But if they were in the AFC North, because that was the division they switched with, you play each other, they were 4-0 against the AFC North, and Chris Long's proud of it.
Yeah, that's a weird deal. And the AFC North's good football. I mean, it isn't like, you're dealing with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Ravens. You're dealing with two pretty good teams. So those are nice wins. But, the Bears are in that mode where they're probably going to end up with a new coach. But young quarterback, Mitch Trubisky in his first year, and he's had to play a lot. And so it'll be interesting to see how he develops. His development will determine where the Bears are going to be for a couple of years.
I hope they take the training wheels off. I feel like they haven't really opened him up. Like they're playing it safe, kind of like Alex Smith. You know what I mean? Like I want to see them open it up and let's see what he can do.
Well, and the deal with Trubisky was kind of like the Mark Sanchez deal when he came out. He just didn't play. He didn't play a lot of football in college. I mean, he wasn't the starter until the last year he was there, and then all of a sudden he became. People saw these measurables and said, "Well, this is the guy." And so I don't know that a lot is known about him. He hasn't played that many games. So it'll be interesting. I mean, his development is probably a little bit behind a guy, say like Josh Rosen, who's played 30 games of college football, or even, and not a pro prospect, but a guy like JT Barrett. How many games has JT Barrett played in his 17 years at Ohio State? So that guy's played a lot of football. Mitch Trubisky didn't play that much college football. He was a backup until that last year when he was a starter, and then he came out early.
Out of North Carolina.
Out of University of North Carolina. So I think he's still a kind of a work in progress, a little bit of a project guy.
It's funny you say Mark Sanchez. We were talking about the USC quarterbacks who just they make it to the NFL. They're obviously good enough to get to the NFL. And Mark Sanchez early on took the Jets to the conference championship game, but then he just kind of disappeared into oblivion.
Well, he was the same kind of deal. He was only the starter at SC for 1 year. Mark Sanchez only started at SC for 1 year. And then he went right after his junior year to the NFL. So that's a hard jump, especially for guys that haven't played a ton of football. At least when you look at the major guys this year, those are all guys that have played a lot. Josh Allen, even though he played at a lower mid-major level, played a lot of football. Yeah. Sam Darnold has been a starter for 2 years. Josh Rosen been a starter for 3 years, although he missed some time with injuries. So those guys, Baker Mayfield's played a lot of football. And so at least you're kind of a little bit more of a known quantity than a guy like Trubisky that only played 1 year.
Well, we got USC and The Ohio State kicking off in just about 20 minutes in the Cotton Bowl, and we'll bring you an update at the end of the show if there's any scoring in that one. But real quick, Vinny, I looked up USC starting quarterbacks, which this has become a theme on the show today somehow. We didn't really plan for this, but USC starting quarterbacks, going back to Carson Palmer in 2000. Of course, we had Carson Palmer, who's had a solid, strong NFL career.
He's a good NFL quarterback, absolutely.
Then into Matt Leinart.
Okay.
John David Booty. Yeah, I think he was on the Vikings for a cup of coffee. He was there for a little bit. Mark Sanchez. Then back to John David Booty. Aaron Corp. Do you remember the Aaron Corp era?
I remember it was a short era.
It was very short. That was part of the 2009 season because he gave way to a freshman named Matt Barkley.
Yeah, it was a short era.
And then the following year, Mitch Mustaine started as the senior starting quarterback and gave way to a now sophomore Matt Barkley.
Yep.
Following that, it was Matt Barkley's job in 2011. And then the year after that, Matt Barkley as a senior and Max Wittick burst onto the scene. And then Max Wittick gave way to the great Cody Kessler, who's now with the Cleveland Browns. And then Max Brown, who I'm not sure where Max Brown is even
Played at Pitt this year, got hurt. He grad transferred to Pitt and was their starter and then got hurt. I think he only played 5 or 6 games and got hurt.
Guys like Max Wittick, who's the other one I'm thinking? Ricky Towns?
Max Brown's brother was my quarterback at Claremont College, Mitch Brown.
Seriously?
Was our starting quarterback.
Because they're from the state of Washington, right?
From Washington. The name of the school, Skyline High, I think.
Yeah, that's their powerhouse, aren't
State
they?
champs.
So how did Max Brown's brother end up down here?
Mitch Brown was highly recruited by us. He was a great student and was our starting quarterback my junior and senior year at Claremont. Didn't have great feet, had a great arm, could really throw it and read defenses, but wasn't as good an athlete as his brother. but his brother was in high school, getting into high school at that time. Mitch Brown was our starting quarterback.
Real who's who on this list. Again, all these guys, really good college quarterbacks. They've all made it to the league. Well, except for the Aaron Corp era. I'd like to Google him.
Aaron Corp was really good at Orange Lutheran. He was a really good player at Orange Lutheran.
His starting record, I'm looking it up right now. He was 0-1.
Yeah, he didn't get to go for very long.
I guess they found out pretty quick. They're like, okay, this isn't going to work. Let's try the freshman Matt Barkley.
Yeah, they moved on.
Matt Barkley as a freshman, 9-3, which again, freshmen don't really start at USC at quarterback. So Matt Barkley was kind of an exception to the rule when he was at SC, and he went 9-3 at a modern day as
the Lane train. That was the Lane Kiffin. Those were the Lane Kiffin years.
You're a big Lane Kiffin guy, right?
I love
the Owls.
Absolutely love Lane Kiffin. I'm all about it. The Lane train.
Oh man, you're all aboard.
Hey, he won. I had the Lane train minus 22, and he covered for me big time.
Talk about the turnaround at his school. Is it Florida?
Florida A&M.
A&M,
or
yeah.
Florida
AU.
Atlantic.
Florida Atlantic University, FAU. The turnaround that they were bad. They weren't even on the football map. I didn't know they had a football program. And now, I forget what bowl game they were, but they were destroying people.
Yeah, Howard Schnellenberger was the first coach at FAU when they started football, and then they went way down for a long time. But give Lane Kiffin a lot of credit. He got a lot of guys. I mean, they brought some guys, some players that recruited
That's
well.
That's what it's all about, right?
Got some transfers.
You can coach your butt off, but you need to have guys.
So they did that, but then brought in Kendall Briles, whose name was kind of a little bit mud after what had happened at Baylor with his dad. And so I think some people were slow to maybe want to bring in Kendall Briles. Lane Kiffin brought him in and did a great job with that offense. Got that offense really rolling, and his brother Chris did the defense. They're well coached. They're a well-oiled machine, man. Look out if they can kind of keep that group together. And Lane Kiffin says he's happy. He says he likes it there. If they can kind of keep that group together, that could be kind of
the team in Florida? I
don't know if they're the team in Florida.
State, Florida, Miami,
but I
FAU.
think a team that could be like maybe a Boise State, team that is competing for that, kind of that UCF Boise State spot in the New Year's Six games.
That'd be pretty interesting.
The Lane train, man.
Kiffin, man, from the Raiders, Tennessee, and the Raiders, and where else has he been?
Tennessee, the SC, the Raiders.
I have a friend who played at Fresno State when Lane Kiffin was an assistant coach there back in the long time ago with Pat Hill. And according to him, and I won't say his name, but the story goes that Lane Kiffin was supposed to be the quarterback when David Carr was there. And David Carr beat him out for the job, and he kind of threw a fit. And they said, no, we want to keep you on the team. Why don't you just be like a grad assistant? Like why don't you just come on as like a team manager kind of a role?
Interesting.
And that's how he got into coaching. That's my friend. That's what he claims. He was a receiver at Fresno State at the time.
He, like I said, he's done a great job. Obviously, and I think he would be the first guy to say he's made some mistakes in his career. He was young and said some things and probably did some things that in hindsight he probably wouldn't do again. But I think he's shown growth. I mean, you got to give people a chance to grow, right? You got to give people a chance to improve themselves and grow up. And he's a great Twitter follow, too. He is a great Twitter follow.
Vinny, he comes across as so boring.
He's
like
a great
no emotion, lack of anything interesting. But you follow him on Twitter and the stuff that he comes up with. Like, he takes shots at Nick Saban. He goes, like, straight for the jugular on some of these guys.
I don't know if he's paying somebody to do his Twitter for him, or if he's doing that all himself, or if it's his kids. Maybe his kids are. I don't know who's doing it, but whoever's doing his Twitter is an A+ social media expert. And if it's him, God bless him, man. He's a great follow.
All right, we come back here on the Inland Sports Show. We're going to talk about the Rams and the Chargers, and I may even just pull up some of these Lane Kiffin tweets because you're right, Vinny. They're pretty funny. There's no way it can be him. He's just so bland. He's so vanilla. Like, I just don't get it. It can't be him on Twitter. So we'll find out. I'm going to pull up some of these Lane Kiffin tweets. We'll read those across. And maybe Jeff from Seattle. Who knows? It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports 1350 AM.
Yeah. Thank God it's Friday.
I thought you had a day off yesterday.
I did. I went in there to pick up my check, came home, supervisor called me about 4 o'clock, talking about they got me on videotape stealing boxes.
The Inland Empires.
How you guys doing today? Coach Ray here from Boost Training. We're here today at the Boost Performance Center with the one and only Pep Fernandez. Today's Boost training tip is all about strength. And of course, it's very specific to speed. We're talking about the single leg supported low squat. Come check it out. So when it comes to athletic performance, and more specifically speed, it's all about the ability to generate force, all about being nice and strong. Now, running is a single leg motion. So it makes sense that you have to have a great foundation of strength. You gotta have single leg strength. So this exercise really works on that single leg strength here with a deep bend in the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So what Mike is gonna do is gonna have an open hand grip, all right? He's gonna get nice and tight to the rack. He's gonna be doing this, he's gonna have his right foot on the ground. He's gonna flex his left knee, all right? He's gonna lower himself nice and easy. He's gonna tap that left knee on the ground and then come up. Now go ahead and do a couple reps here, Micah. All right, so what we want here is we really want to emphasize pushing that left foot in the ground, that right foot in the ground and not pulling himself up, which is why we have the open hand grip. And as I mentioned before, really getting that deep bend in the ankles, the knees, and the hips, just as if we were sprinting. So if you're not doing this exercise, you really want to add it to your repertoire because it's a great drill for building speed and generating force. We do it right here at Boost.
Thank God, first of all. I thank the great people that I've got around me that help support me, the people that work for me. As I started, if it wasn't for the people around me, we probably wouldn't be here right now, but I've got a great staff. I've got great people that do stuff for us outside the store, and we've been very, very fortunate. Our service is impeccable, and we just keep trying to get better every year. We can do online stuff for your teams, as well as, like I said, the screen printing, the embroidery. We also have 3 women that do extra sewing for us, like tackle tool on uniforms, or the bling or rhinestones for different shirts for the ladies. That's why we have certain racks just for certain schools, and the fun about that is that it turns into other schools that may come in here that aren't as close, that we can do stuff for them as well. We've had very, very good customers throughout the years, and it's just been a blast.
Focus on the customer here. Believe it or not, that is the biggest thing for customers on an oil change. They just want the convenience of coming in, driving in, getting it done, and driving out. Just greet them, get them going, and they're done in about 10 minutes or so. We don't push any sales on them. We do the oil change, and I think that's what sets us apart is our customer service. Vacuumed and cleaned your windshield for you as well. Everything's looking pretty good. Come into us one time, believe me, we'll spoil you and you'll be ready to come back the next time.
the chocolate.
That boy good. Damn, that boy can sing.
You must be crazy.
He good.
We're back to the Inland Sports Show. Here are your hosts, Pep Fernandez and Jeff Gorham.
And welcome back. It's the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports 1350 AM. I'm Pep Fernandez. That's Vinny Fazio bringing you all the good stuff across the Inland Empire and the NFL today on a Friday as we get you set for the weekend college football bowl season. Big weekend of NFL football as we get you set for the NFL playoffs. And there's no way, Vinny, that Lane Kiffin does his own Twitter account.
It's so good. No, it's so good.
I go back to this. He just comes across as so boring with no personality and nothing interesting. And you go on his Twitter, and he's tweeting about having Snoop Dogg at his practice. That's one of them. And then he's like retweeting Eminem and telling him good job on his new album. And then what was the one about the North Korean dictator and he's not taking the Tennessee job?
Started a petition for Kim Jong-un.
There's no way. There's no way that's Lane Kiffin. They even have video of him getting a Gatorade bath. You know, like you get a big win and you take the Powerade or the Gatorade and you dump it on the head coach. He didn't even enjoy it. He like turned around, gave his players like a mean look, threw down his headset, and walked out to midfield like it was the worst thing that ever happened to him. He does not do his own Twitter. There's no way.
He is a fantastic Twitter follow. I don't know who's doing it, but whoever's doing it is really good.
Speaking of the Gatorade bath, one of the most iconic moments that I remember is when you guys beat Redlands at Eisenhower, and you did the old discount double check Aaron Rodgers style, and you said, the champ is here. And I know that video is still somewhere floating around, as you put it, the universe. It's somewhere out there. Did you ever get a Gatorade bath?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a few. You know what? It's not so bad. You think it's going to be worse than it is, but it's actually not so bad. But boy, that was a great win for our team, that Eisenhower win against Redlands. I don't know how many times we beat that team if we play them in a 10-game series or whatever.
It only takes one, though.
Boy, we happened to pick the right one. You know, we played great defensively and did enough on offense. They were so good on defense, it was hard to do much. But we did enough and forced a couple turnovers. And Clarence Mabone is a guy that nobody will ever talk about. High school football. He was one of our corners, ran down a guy. They threw what looked like it was going to be a touchdown. Clarence Mabone ran the guy down, never gave up on the play, ran him down at the 2-yard line, made the tackle, and we got an interception. We tipped the ball, and Clarence Mabone intercepted it. So he ran the guy down, didn't give up on play, then got an interception to win us that game, win us the league championship. So Clarence Mabone, if you're still out there cutting hair, I know he was a barber at the time.
Oh, so was he really?
If you're still out there, Clarence, cutting hair, man, I will never forget you. I tell your story all the time. Just a great never give up, quit.
As a head coach, to get any better than that Thursday night in Redlands?
No, that's as good as it. That from where we came when we took the program. You know, Eisenhower had won. I think 4 games in 3 years when we took the program. And to get to that point where we were playing for the league championship was amazing. But to have the kids play the way they played that night and rise up against one of the better Redlands teams they've ever had with Craig Lee and Jimmy Walker and Jacob Nottingham, just a stud team. And our kids, Tawan Green, Terry Clarendon, Micah St. Andrew, Jerrion Burton, and Clarence Mabone, the kid I'll never forget. I'll go to on my deathbed, be telling the story of Clarence Mabone, who just never quit and made that tackle at the 1-yard line and saved the game for us, won us the league championship.
Vinny, breaking news. Stop what you're doing. It's a final from the Sun Bowl. North Carolina State has beaten Arizona State 52-31, so another Pac-12 school goes down. But if you want some silver lining here for the Inland Empire, Kyle Williams, who was a former Vista Marietta quarterback, he's now a receiver for the Sun Devils. 7 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown for ASU in defeat. So there's that.
I hope the ASU fans enjoyed what will be their last bowl game for a while.
Herm Edwards, man.
The Herm Edwards era begins today.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
All right, so we got the final Sunday of NFL football as we get ready for the playoffs. The Rams are already in. We know that. They're going to finish up with the 49ers and the red-hot Jimmy Garoppolo, undefeated in the NFL. But the Rams are resting their starters, currently the number 3 seed. But, Vinny, my case is, and I think we're like-minded here, that they're going to slide to number 4, assuming that they're going to lose against the 49ers. which could be the best thing for them because in the long run, would you rather travel to Minnesota or Philadelphia, which would ultimately be the second round of the playoffs?
I think the thing is this. The first round opponent, if you're the 4, is Carolina, which I think is a better first round opponent than either Atlanta or Seattle. So if you're just talking about the first round, I think you would be better off as the 3 than the 4. If you're saying, I think we can beat either of those teams, I think we can beat Carolina, you're certainly better off with Philadelphia in the second round. I mean, Philadelphia is a shell. As good as they are, they don't have Carson Wentz.
We saw them against the Raiders, and they're not the same team.
No, they're not the same. I mean, the truth is, there's a reason that Carson Wentz is the league MVP, or could have been.
Yeah.
And Nick Foles is Nick Foles, and he's a solid NFL backup, but he's not Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
So I think whoever Philadelphia gets in that second round, they're very vulnerable, be that Carolina or the Saints or the Rams or whoever. Philadelphia is vulnerable in that game. And so if you're the Rams, you think you can get by Carolina, then I think you'd rather have the Eagles in that second round than a trip to Minnesota.
Yeah, so let's just assume for the time being that, the Rams lose against the 49ers. They slide to number 4. They win their first playoff game. I'd rather go to number 1, Philadelphia, as opposed to number 2, Minnesota, where the Vikings have already beaten the Rams. They've proven that. They can do it at home. It was 24-7. They manhandled the Rams defensively. They were all over Jared Goff and that Rams offense.
I think there's no doubt about that. I do think I think you don't want to be too fast to gloss over beating Cam Newton, because beating Cam Newton's very hard. Cam Newton is very, very, very good.
I have a hard time figuring them out.
Yeah,
Carolina.
He's good.
They are good, but sometimes I look at them and I'm like, you know what? I don't think they're going to get out of the first round. They might get into the playoffs, but they're not going to get out of the first round. I'm not sold on them like I was when they made that run to the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I still, man, when you got to play him, he is a different kind of animal, and there's just nothing to simulate Cam Newton. There's nothing else like him, big and physical and nasty, and can throw it down the field like he can. There just is no simulation for him, and when he's focused and dialed in and himself, and that's certainly not a gimme. Now the Rams are playing so well, and they're so good in the defensive front. Aaron Donald, I heard Wade Phillips say he might not just be the defensive player of the year. He might be the MVP of the whole league.
He's that good.
I mean, he's that big of a difference in the middle. So the Rams can hold their own in there, but I certainly would be slow to say just gloss over beating a Cam Newton-led team. Cam Newton's no joke.
Real quick, Vinny, your MVP, is it Todd Gurley? Can you make a case for Todd Gurley?
You can make a strong case for Todd Gurley.
I mean, Carson Wentz is hurt.
It was Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
To me, it was Carson Wentz. But I think you can make a strong case now without him for Gurley. I think you can make a strong case for Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's been fabulous this year. So I think there's some guys in there that you can make a case for. Of course, Tom Brady is always, a potential player of the year. And in the NFL, where you don't have, it's not split by conferences, it's just the player of the year. It's hard to argue ever against Tom Brady, but I think he kind of gets LeBron'd a little bit, where it's
he does.
It could be Tom Brady every year.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Any year, Tom Brady's always LeBron James is always the MVP. So do we want to just give it to him every year, or do we want to have years where other guys get it? So I'm not sure that Brady will win it, even though, I mean, Tom Brady, he's Tom Brady.
Well, Todd Gurley, we'll see. Well, he's not playing in that final game, so whatever his numbers look like right now, that'll be his regular season numbers for the season.
And that's the right decision. There's no reason to play him. There's no reason to get a guy hurt. I mean, we saw what happened with Wentz. Wentz goes down, and all of a sudden the Eagles go from kind of rolling everybody.
Well, Foles had four touchdowns in that first game, right, as the starter, and then he came back against the Raiders, and it looked like a very winnable game, and they really struggled against the Raiders in that one.
I mean, I don't think – look, Foles is no bum. If you go back a few years, Foles was a pretty good player.
He was.
Nick Foles not a bum. Again, it's like we were talking about earlier. Foles is a regular NFL quarterback. He's an NFL-capable quarterback, but he's not Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is the MVP of the league, or – at the very least, one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the whole NFL. So, there haven't been a lot of Carson Wentz's ever existing in the world. There's a small handful of those guys. And so there's a difference. When you lose that guy, it's a difference.
It would have been fun to see a healthy Carson Wentz go against Jared Goff in the second round. The two guys were kind of attached at the hip because they came in the same draft.
Well, what a great game that was when they played.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
a couple weeks ago.
The game where Wentz got hurt was a classic. Back and forth and scoring and making plays. And
you're right.
I mean, it was a classic game. So I was devastated, and I'm not an Eagle, so I'm not really a fan of any team, but I was devastated when Wentz went out. He was playing so well, and he was just good for the NFL, and I hope that he's able to come back and be what he was before. I hope when he comes back, he's that same guy.
You want some breaking news, Vinny?
Yeah, I'd love it.
So, world famous intern Angel, he's our boots on the ground at Troy at USC, and he's got breaking news as the Cotton Bowl is kicking off. I'm going to share that with you and everybody else when we come back.
Oh, that's a tease. That's what they call a tease.
It's a tease. We'll be right back. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports 1350 AM.
Yeah, thank God it's Friday.
Santana. Ron, are you okay?
The man put it back, sir.
Calm down. Breathe, Ron. Breathe.
The man, that's my motorcycle.
What did the bad man do?
I played once upon a time at Centennial High School. I was actually on the first ever CIF championship team back in 2000, and then my senior year we won it again. I'd say that's my passion because I've done it. I know exactly where these athletes are at. I know what their mindset is right now. I know how hard it is to, number one, find a performance coach who can take you to the next level. What sets us apart has to be, how we work with our athletes and what we know. We can take an athlete and help them reach their athletic potential, help them, prevent injuries, help get them stronger. I know every single athlete who steps into this gym. I know exactly where they're at, and I'm going to progress them every week. If you're not getting results, then, what's it about? We're going to deliver something that's measurable, in terms of speed, power, strength, agility.
We focus on the customer here. Believe it or not, that is the biggest thing for customers on an oil change. They just want the convenience of coming in, driving in, getting it done, and driving out. We just greet them, get them going, and they're done in about 10 minutes or so. We don't push any sales on them. We do the oil change, and I think that's what sets us apart is our customer service. Vacuumed and cleaned your windshield for you as well. Everything's looking pretty good. You come into us one time, believe me, we'll spoil you and you'll be ready to come back the next time.
We're a small family-owned, strive for quality pre-owned vehicles. We're not a volume dealer, and we take every deal as personal to us. We're a low-stress environment. We're not a pressure sales house. If you want to shop us, you're more than welcome to shop us. We have, like I said, great rates, competitive financing, a lot of one-owner, clean Carfax, clean title vehicles. As you see, we have Carfax everywhere. That's most important to us, to educate our customers before they make a purchase. We're right off of Ontario, right off a couple exits off the 15 freeway, off Cajalco, off El Cerrito, and we're right on the main drag going into Dos Logos and the Crossings. We have great financing, we have great lenders that we're using. We do buy, sell, trade, cash for your car, whatever we need to do to help accommodate the customer, that's what we're here for. We have a little bit of everything. We start at about $69.95 and go all the way up to $100,000. We have Escalades, we have commuters, we have pickup trucks, we have Jeeps, sport utilities, and if we don't have it, our specialty is finding you exactly what you're looking for.
Here's Pep and Jeff.
Welcome back to the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM, proudly brought to you by Ken Sporting Goods, Spoiled, Quick Quality Oil Change, Catalana Motors in Corona, and Boost Performance Training. The breaking news, boots on the ground in Troy. Big thanks to world-famous intern Angel. In fact, I'll probably shoot him off a text right now and let him know I got this. He's telling me that Riverside Poly product, Achille Ross, academically ineligible tonight for the Cotton Bowl. So if you're looking for Achille Ross in the secondary for USC, you're not going to see him. He's not playing tonight against the Ohio State. So I was hoping to see a Achille Ross maybe on Marcus Ball from JW North, a North versus Poly matchup in this game. Ball playing tight end for the Buckeyes, but not going to happen. Big shout out to world-famous intern Angel. You can't get that anywhere else. He's boots on the ground in Troy.
He's good, man. And he's really gotten good on the radio, too. I was listening to him the other day on with you guys. Yeah. Man, he's grown up.
Oh, he's going to be big time. I'm hoping
he's
I'll
grown
treat
up.
him right. He'll give me a job one day, and then it'll all work out.
Just ride the wave, baby.
That's right. So we talked about the Rams a little bit, Vinny, and they're obviously already into the playoffs. They've already got a home game in the first round, and they're going to rest their starters. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, they're going to finish up with the Raiders. They don't control their own destiny, but it looks like they still have a good chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the big thing for them is they're going to be playing and having to beat the Raiders, of course, but they're going to have their eye on that Tennessee game, Tennessee and Jacksonville. But here's the deal for Jacksonville. Tom Coughlin obviously is one of the big mucky mucks for Jacksonville. And remember, he made his name keeping that giant team on the field and playing against the Patriots the year the Patriots were trying to go undefeated. Lost that game, Week 16 game, but then came back and beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That's one of the things that Tom Coughlin is the most notable for. So I've all the word out of Jacksonville is they're all in trying to beat Tennessee. And if they can beat Tennessee, I think obviously that's
great for the Chargers.
I think the Chargers are going to handle their business against the Raiders. I think the Raiders have punted a little bit on this year. I think the Chargers are going to handle their business. So now you just got to hope Jacksonville comes through and helps you out.
So the way I understand it, so the Chargers beat the Raiders. Like you said, the Jaguars beat the Titans. And if the Ravens beat the Bengals, that's also a good thing because we want Baltimore to strengthen their case, right, to make the playoffs.
Yeah, because if Baltimore loses, now that introduces the Bills into it. The Bills are behind the Chargers unless Baltimore loses. Baltimore loses and the Bills win. Now all of a sudden you got kind of more
we don't want the
up.
Bills in the mix.
So the Bills kind of can mess with it if Baltimore loses. So you need Baltimore to win. Now, according to the advanced stats, they're like 97% to beat the Bengals at home. So you think Baltimore 97 out of 100 they're going to win that game. So
you would think, but it only takes one, right?
Only takes one, baby. I was on the field for Ike Redlands a few years ago, so I can tell you it only takes one.
You know, they were talking to Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn the other day about scoreboard watching. Because remember, the NFL moved all the start times to the same, so you didn't have to do the scoreboard watching. But still, nevertheless, inside the stadium, even when the games are going on at the same time, you'll still see the out-of-town scoreboard and what the other teams are doing. If you're a head coach, if you're Anthony Lynn of the Chargers, how do you approach that? Do you tell your guys, hey, listen, don't look up there. It doesn't matter. If we don't win, all that other stuff doesn't even matter. In fact, he was even talking about getting a hold of the stadium operations guy and say, hey, listen, take down the scores.
Don't even put it up.
I don't even want them up in ears, eyesight. Like, I want them down. I don't want to see them at all. How do you go into that?
When we were at the University of Redlands, when I was a linebackers coach there, I used to tell my linebackers, don't even look at the scoreboard. You guys just play. Don't even look at our scoreboard. Just play. Just play the next play. Play 1,000 miles an hour. Let us, as the coaches, worry about the scoreboard. And they'd go, oh, okay, coach. And then they'd never, of course, do that. But the message always is just handle what you can handle. Be as good as you can, play to play. Win your battle. Win your individual battle. Try to win the game. That's all you can do. You really can't. You know, and that's really a macro life lesson, right? You really don't have any control over the things you don't have control over. Control what you can control. Worry about that. People spend so much of their time worrying about things they have no control over.
Yeah.
And it just drives you crazy. So don't worry about that. It'll happen or it won't. But it doesn't matter. If the Chargers don't handle their business, it doesn't matter what happens in those other games. So win your game, and then at the end you can look up and see what happened.
But it's human nature.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? Like, if the scores are actually up there, I mean, I really doubt the StubHub Center, whatever they call that now, Carson's actually going to take the scores down from all the other games. They're going to be up there. I think it's human nature just to want to take a peek, especially if you're up. Let's say the Chargers build a big lead and you're like, okay, I think we're going to get this victory. What are the Jaguars doing right now? What are the Ravens doing right now?
Well, and I've been in those games too, you know, where you're listening, where even in high school, where you're playing your game and you're listening to hear how other teams are doing. Oh, hey, Ukaipa's beating Redlands, or hey, you know,
especially social media now. You know,
hey, Cajon's beating at Carter. Hey, Cajon's beating Colton or whatever. So you hear it. There's no way around it, and that's at the high school level. So they're going to hear it. They're going to know, but there's a difference between hearing it and knowing and letting it affect the way you act. It can't affect the way you act. That's being a professional. Your job is to go out and do your job and play hard and coach hard and do the best you can. That's all you can handle.
Well, let's say the stars align. The Chargers beat the Raiders. The Titans lose to the Jaguars. The Ravens beat the Bengals. And the Chargers get into the postseason. Is this a dangerous team? Because I think back, it's not a similar team, but I think back to 2005 when the Steelers were at number 6 seed, and they rode it all the way to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, is this a team that can be built to go on the road throughout the playoffs and string together a couple wins?
A couple weeks ago, I really thought the Chargers are playing better than anyone. I mean, they really were playing as good as anyone, and then they laid that egg in Kansas City, and I got a little shell-shocked. You know, a few weeks ago, I was waving the banner for the Chargers because even their losses early in the year, a lot of those losses could have been wins. They missed some kicks.
The kicker.
They did. I mean, they had 3 or 4 losses that could have easily been wins. They just make a kick. So I was waving the banner for the Chargers, but boy, they didn't look very good a couple weeks ago against Kansas City. So I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit more reserved on the Chargers than maybe I was a couple weeks ago, but I do think they're going to win. I think they're going to beat the Raiders. I think Jacksonville is going to help them. I think they got a good chance to get in. And once you're in, right? I mean, now you got a chance. It's a whole new thing. Everybody starts again, and now you got a chance.
Well, I think if they can get in, I like Rivers. Keenan Allen, probably the best receiver that nobody talks about, right? Keenan Allen. And then the bookends on the defensive line, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa. I think they could be a tough matchup if they're playing like that same football, like you said, from a couple weeks ago. So we'll see if the Chargers get in on Sunday as they wrap up against the Raiders. When we come back here on the Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM, we'll wrap this thing up. We'll talk about our Mr. Football Award in the Inland Empire, Vinny. Maybe you could toss out a couple names. Who is the top high school football player in the Inland Empire?
Okay.
Beginning next week right here on the show, we'll unveil our finalists. And then as we lead into the IE All-Star Classic on January 13th at Centennial High School, we'll name Mr. Football.
I got to think there's a receiver out Marietta way that would
that's one if you want to take the safe bet.
Got to be on the list somewhere, right?
That's one of them. Yeah, record-breaking receiver down there in Marietta. So we'll talk about that and get you set for also a big weekend in local basketball as well. We'll be right back. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports 1350 AM.
Yeah, thank God it's Friday.
You know, I started on cleanup just like you guys. But now, see, I'm washing lettuce. Soon I'll be on fries, then the grill. A year or two, I make assistant manager.
I played once upon a time at Centennial High School. I was actually on the first ever CIF championship team back in 2000, and then my senior year we won it again. I think that's my passion because I've done it. You know, I know exactly where these athletes are at. I know what their mindset is right now. I know how hard it is to, number one, find a performance coach who can take you to the next level. What sets us apart has to be, you know, how we work with our athletes and what we know. We can take an athlete and you know, help them reach their athletic potential, you know, help them, you know, prevent injuries, help get them stronger. I know every single athlete who steps into this gym. I know exactly where they're at, and I'm going to progress them every week. If you're not getting results, then, you know, really what's it about? We're going to deliver something that's measurable, you know, in terms of speed, power, you know, strength, agility.
Studios, it's Fox Sports IE, 1350 AM, KUBE, Riverside.
And here's something else, Bob. I have 8 different bosses right now.
I beg your pardon?
8 bosses.
8?
8, Bob. So that means that when I make a mistake, I have 8 different people coming by to tell me about it.
We're back to the Inland Sports Show. Here are your hosts, Pep Fernandez and Jeff Gorham.
Oh, yeah, Beastie Boys. You strike me as a Beastie Boys kind of guy, Vinny.
Why is that, Pep?
I don't know. I can see you rocking out to,
I had some
Sabotage.
I had some Beastie Boys moments back in the day, yeah.
Welcome back to the Inland Sports Show, Fox Sports IE 1350 AM. We're going to wrap this thing up with a bow on it as we head into the weekend, our final show of 2017, Vinny. So you're really closing out the year for us.
Hey, I'm excited, man. I got to be here on the final show, not the last show, the best show. That's what we always used to say. Hey, this isn't the last set. This is the best set. This isn't our last segment. It's the best segment.
Well, we're gonna finish strong. Yeah, we have to send Jeff away for this one. Let the big boys play.
Every year. Bring me back on the last show every year.
That'll be your thing, right?
That'll be my thing.
Well, real quick, we're talking about Mr. Football in the Inland Empire. It's the biggest award going to the MVP of high school football in the IE. We're talking about the 909, the 951, and we're going to make our big announcement as we lead into the January 13th, 33rd Annual Inland Empire All-Star Classic. So as we get closer to the All-Star game, right here on this show, we'll unveil the finalists for Mr. Football in the Inland Empire. Vinny, off the top of your head, throw out some names out there because I can't confirm nor deny these guys are on the actual finalist list as we're still in the science lab with a very technical formula coming up with the final names. So who would you say?
Spiker. Yeah. Marquise Spiker.
At Marietta Valley.
Marietta Valley.
Pretty good one.
Hank Bachmeyer, since let's stay with the Marietta Valley
theme. Marietta Valley, yeah.
Tanner McKee, right?
Centennial quarterback.
Yeah. Running back Dye, running back at Norco.
Oh, yeah, Travis Dye.
You got Jaden Daniels.
You're pretty good at this game.
Can we do juniors? Jaden Daniels.
Juniors. Yeah, sure.
Jaden Daniels. What about the Rancho Cucamonga area? Is that off?
That's fair game.
Okay, Nick Acosta, Rancho Cucamonga. What's the linebacker at Upland? Justin Flo, the sophomore. I will say, he's the best player I saw this year. He's the best player I saw this year.
With your own eyeballs.
With my own eyeballs. Actually watched him play. I watched him on the film of the Rancho Upland on the TV. And he was the best overall player. Spiker is phenomenally
record setting.
Yeah, it's hard to. Spiker is phenomenally.
He's your Washington Husky.
Good. So this is not a knock on Spiker. He's phenomenally good. But that Flo kid from Upland, almost never when you hear that a kid is the greatest thing since sliced bread, almost never is that actually true. You're always like, well, he's really good, but that kid is everything they say he is.
Can't miss.
He could not play. He could stop playing. He could not play. Skip his junior and senior year, and he would have 80 offers. He's that good. Just off of sophomore tape, he could sit on the beach for 2 years, and he'd have 80 scholarship offers. He's that good.
Well, beginning next week, we'll unveil the finalists for Mr. Football in the Inland Empire right here on the Inland Sports Show. It's all brought to you by our good friends at Spoiled Quick Quality Oil Change. Also, Ken Sporting Goods, more than 40 years in the Inland Empire. They're a staple for all your sporting gear needs. Also, Boost Performance Training in Corona with Coach Ray Bass. It doesn't matter the sport. They'll get you ready. And check out their new Overtime program for kids going into high school athletics. And also, Catalano Motors in Corona off Temescal Canyon Road. You can buy, you can trade, and you can finance at Catalano Motors in Corona. Big weekend of local basketball as well, of course. UC Riverside taking on Seattle tomorrow afternoon on the road. Cal Baptist back in action after the Christmas break, which Division II schools have to take 7 days off. Everyone shuts it down across the board. Pretty cool deal.
That is cool.
They're going to take on Simpson tomorrow inside that new event center on campus. And the San Bernardino Kiwanis Finals live on IEMG. Myself and local basketball coach Tim Hatch will have the call as Redlands High School will take on Barstow. It's another classic RHS Barstow battle. Throw the numbers out there.
Throw the records out.
You were reading my mind, Vinny. So it's going to be a fun one. That's 7:30 tomorrow night at Arroyo Valley High School live on IEMG. Vinny, did you have a good time?
This was great, man. I'm really glad. I'm happy that you had me here. I hope it was okay. Hope it was listenable for the listeners out there, the however many of them there are that aren't my family. I'm sure our ratings went up because my whole family listened.
Well, we're gonna find out. We're gonna put it to the test.
We got that going for us.
Next time, bring the Christmas suit.
I will. Oh, 100%. Whenever it is, too.
Next year, when you're here for the last show of the year, right?
I absolutely will. If it gets out of Vegas, if it makes it out of Vegas, you never know if it's going to make it out of Vegas or not.
For the great Vinny Fazio, I'm Pep Fernandez. We'll see you next year on Monday, 3 to 6 p.m. It's the one and only Inland Sports Show on Fox Sports IE 1350 AM.